A groin injury, so Ortega comes in. The other changes are Nunes starting for Lewis at right back. Bernardo Silva comes in for Kovacic in the midfield, and Savinho starts instead of McAtee. As for Everton, well, they're unchanged from the team that beat Nottingham Forest last weekend.
Chris Sutton's alongside Ian for commentary. Afternoon, Chris.
Hello, Steve.
I mean, I know it's not as simple as this, but you look at that Manchester City 11 and you just think they must have enough to be fifth in the Premier League, but they might not.
No, I still think they've got a lot of work to do, and their last game against Crystal Palace pretty much summed up Manchester City this season. They were woeful at the start, could have gone 3 down had the Eze goal been given. It was offside, and then City came back, didn't they, and absolutely walloped Palace. They've played in patches this season. You just don't quite know what you're going to get, but Pep talked in his press conference yesterday about that it's still being in their hands. They could be lower in the table, he said, but they're still in a position where, yeah, I mean, they win a couple of 3 games, that may just be enough, but it's an intriguing race, isn't it? Chelsea have dropped off a little bit, I think, as of late. You've got Villa Newcastle later, as you've spoken about, and I know Ian Dennis wrote off Nottingham Forest this week and their chances of a Champions League.
Well, hold on, let's see how Steve responds to this then, shall we?
What?
What did you say to me earlier?
I just asked whether, Chris, when you started calling Nottingham Forest my Nottingham Forest, whether that had a detrimental impact. I didn't say it did. I was just asking the question, Chris.
Yeah, they're still my Nottingham Forest. I was disappointed to see a colleague who I would consider a close colleague in Ian Dennis, who travel around Germany together. Right,
that
my
still
team
doesn't make us close.
I like the way, Chris, that you felt the need just to make sure everyone knew that you were talking about Ian when you said close colleague and not me.
Oh, come on, Steve. You're a
We're close
colleague
friends.
as well. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right,
We're not close and we're not friends, Chris.
Let's hear from David Moyes, shall we? He's been calling it Moisey time. That's what he said the other day after Abdoulaye Doucouré scored that late winner at Nottingham Forest. Julia Bold sat down with David Moyes this week. Here's how he describes his decision to come back to Goodison.
A huge risk. I thought to myself for the first few nights, I'm saying, what am I doing coming back here? And I thought about it. I think my early games were Aston Villa and Tottenham and Brighton, and I'm saying, my goodness, if we're not taking any points from these games, I could be really struggling. I was looking at the end of the season and the fixtures we're in at the moment and thinking, my goodness, where are we going to pick up the points to get enough points to be safe? So there was a couple of early nights where I found it really difficult to think, my goodness, have I done the right thing here? And partly I didn't want to find that, the work I had done here over 11 years meant nothing if we got relegated. But thankfully, we've taken the job and we got off to a great start and probably got ourselves in a position where we're not mathematically safe, but certainly feeling as if we're a good way to being safe.
Has that happened faster than you thought? Did you expect this to maybe go to the wire?
We were saying when we come in, we were looking at all the games, we said we thought it would certainly be down to the last 3 games and how were we going to do till we get there. And let's be fair, I think every win makes you feel a little bit better. We didn't win against Aston Villa, but we won against Tottenham at home. We got a result against Brighton away, and before you know it, you're saying, my goodness, this has gone great. But also the confidence of the players picked up as well, and some of them have done remarkably well and given us every chance of staying up.
You will see Goodison Park out. Do you have a moment at Goodison, or when you think of Goodison Park, how would you describe it?
It's very difficult. It's an old lady, lots of style, but they try to do the stadium up and get lots of things done to keep it going as long as it has done. But I think every Evertonian's been waiting for the chance to move to a new stadium, see it as a new opportunity, a new beginning. I do as well, because I think there's a chance now that we try and move Everton on. We've got bigger crowds coming, bigger opportunity to try and present ourselves to lots of players. No, why don't you come and play here? We didn't always take them to Goodison when we were bringing new players. We always brought them to the training ground, which is very good. But I don't think I could describe Goodison in any one word. There's been times at Goodison I've loved it. There's been times at Goodison I thought, oh, this little tunnel down here and small dressing rooms and not a big manager's office. But honestly, it's a special place because, more importantly, because the people who come to it. the supporters who come to it, the atmosphere which has been made. And over years and years, there's been brilliant managers worked there, and there's also been brilliant players who've played there. We'll be sad to see it go, and it's great moving to a new stadium, but we've just got to be cautious. It's never easy when you move to a new stadium, but hopefully the supporters will give us the same backing as what we've had over the years at Goodison.
David Moyes speaking to Julia Bold. The countdown, by the way, for Goodison is at 4 games. Chris, I was having a little look back at your career this morning.
Oh,
and
that didn't take long.
No. This is a nice question. It's a serious question. So I know it's dead easy for us to say about, or you could say about any stadium, goodbye to this stadium and all the memories. But you played against Neville Southall, the late, great Gary Speed, Graham Stewart, Paul Rideout, all the way through to Osman, Arteta and Cahill. So how would you describe it?
Well, I love this stadium. I think it's got heart, it's got soul. The stands are really close to the pitch. They're on top of you. I remember doing a game, I don't know whether that was with you or not, Ian, a few years ago with where they played Arsenal. And Iwobi scored, and the roof nearly came off the stadium that evening. They really get behind the team when they're flying. And I was reading back some of the history today. 1892, the first game wasn't when Everton played in this stadium. 143 years old, and I think a couple of the stands are still the absolute original ones here. I mean, it's a lovely feel. It is, and you mentioned some of the great names and some of the great teams they've had. There's going to be a lot of Everton fans who really miss this stadium. They understand about, there's always a right time to move on, but there are going to be so many memories left here.
Well said, Chris. Yeah, I think I just said 4. It's 3 games left to go, including today at Goodison. I'm sure sounds like we can hear in the background. You'd like to think they'll be taking them to the new stadium. We'll be back with Chris and Ian in just a second. We've got 5 points separating 8th from 12th in the Premier League at the minute. Looks like that's going to be the battle for the one English place in the Conference League for next season. So 5 teams, 4 of them play at 3 o'clock, and they're all playing each other. Brentford have got work to do in 11th. They face Brighton in 10th. John Southall.
It's a beautiful afternoon here in West London, Steve. As someone said to me earlier, it is the well-run club derby. 2 model clubs, but 2 sides who've struggled of late. 1 win in 6 has left Brentford's European hopes very much in doubt. 2 changes today for them. And Janelt drop out for Kyoto. That's his first start for the club, and Yarmouk. Brighton, of course, still very much in European contention, but they haven't won in 4. They also make 2 changes. Van Hecke's back, and Weaver also returns for Yari and Adingra. Brentford haven't won here in the league since the 7th of December. The last 2 meetings between these two, Steve, finished goalless, but I have high hopes for this one in the West London sun. Lovely afternoon.
Thank you very much, John. Bournemouth are in possession of 8th after a big win over Fulham. They've got Crystal Palace in 12th, but Palace obviously have the FA Cup as another possible route into Europe. Their surge up the table has been stalled by back-to-back defeats, Henry Moran.
Not just any defeats either. Palace conceding as many goals in the games at City and Newcastle as they had in their previous 17. The 5-0 drubbing midweek. A game that Oliver Glasner said he wanted to throw in the bin. Mid-table, probably the realistic limit for Palace, so all eyes are on next weekend's FA Cup semi-final against Villa. That said, the manager does bring back a key part of the side in the form of Adam Wharton. He's the one change, replacing Jefferson Lerma from that Newcastle game midweek. Bournemouth still very much in the hunt for European football in 8th, but they do need a win to keep the pressure on those above. The good news is they're 32 goals on the road, a total only bettered by Liverpool. Vital they got that win to break a run of 6 without victory against Fulham on Monday. Anthony Araola makes 2 changes. Top scorer Justin Kluivert back after 3 games out with injury. Ilya Zabani returns in defence. 2 expansive teams. April sunshine. This should be an awful lot of fun.
Chris Sutton, just to bring you back in on this, I know sort of as a headline the race for 8th doesn't sound all that sexy. However, we've got teams in there who've not been in Europe for a long time and teams in there who've never been in Europe, so it's massive for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Bournemouth, just think about it. If Bournemouth got into a European place this season, it would be amazing for their fan base. They've been brilliant this season. They've fallen away a little bit as of late. They had that important winners on Monday night, wasn't it, against Fulham, where they edged it. They were a little bit nervy, got over the line in that one. And I was at the Newcastle Palace game on Wednesday night, where Crystal Palace have had a couple of wallopings in the last 2 games, conceded 5 goals in each, and they've really improved under Oliver Glasner. Strange start to the season, where they finished last season really strongly. I think they won 6 out of the last 7, and we expected them to have a strong start to this season. That didn't happen, but their recent form up until the City game and the Newcastle game has been pretty good, and they'll want to finish the season strongly. They've got the FA Cup semi-final, so I think both teams can take a lot out of this season regardless of what happens, but there's still plenty to play for both.
The other 3 o'clock kickoff is down at the other end of the table. Southampton, already relegated, of course, face West Ham, who are 17th. Aaron Paul's at the London Stadium.
Yeah, it's a small thing for Southampton, though, isn't it, Steve? Relegated already. A win today ensures that they don't go down as the worst ever side ever seen in the Premier League, leapfrogging that Derby team who recorded only 11 points, and they hope Flynn Downs can really push them to it back following suspension. He replaces Cameron Archer. West Ham come into this one with no win in 5. Graham Potter, though, says that he's seen the foundations and the small little hints that this is a side that can really do something next season. He shuffles the pack. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is injured. Vladimir Soufal comes in for him. Emerson Palmieri replaces Oliver Scholes on the left side of the fence, with Nicholas Fulkrug leading the attack. Early spring sunshine bathing the pitch here at the London Stadium. I've had a mare, though, Steve. I've gone early. I'm wearing shorts, and I didn't factor.
You wear shorts every day.
I know, but Steve, I didn't factor in the crosswind, and you've always got to do that.
Thank you very much, Aaron. So Aaron will keep us up to date. Couple of other things to bring you up to date with. Cardiff City have sacked manager Omar Reza. This follows their defeat to Sheffield United yesterday. It leaves them second bottom in the Championship. They're a point from safety with 3 games to play. Wales captain Aaron Ramsey is going to take charge of the side for the remainder of the season, starting with Monday's home game against Oxford United. No Scottish Premiership matches today. In the Scottish Championship, after being handed a 15-point deduction by the SPFL on Thursday, Hamilton are bottom of the table. They're appealing. As it stands, they could be relegated this afternoon. Hamilton have got to beat Queen's Park. They also have to hope that Airdrie drop points against Morton. In Scottish League 1, we already know that Arbroath are up as champions and Dumbarton are going down. Nothing else can be 100% confirmed in terms of promotion and relegation this afternoon. But if Annan were to lose and Inverness win, Annan would almost certainly face a relegation playoff, because there'd be 6 points adrift with 2 games to go, and their goal difference is 25 goals worse off. So pretty safe to say that's unlikely to change. In Scottish League 2, Peterhead will be promoted as champions if they win and East Fife lose. Bonnyrigg Rose will definitely finish 10th and therefore face a relegation playoff unless they beat Forfar this afternoon. Staying in Scotland, is that another red card at Hampden, Kenny?
Yeah, Hearts down to 9 men now. Still Hearts 1, Aberdeen 1, but this time it's Australian midfielder Cammy Devlin, his second yellow. Brought down an Aberdeen player just outside the box as Aberdeen are trying to force that winner. Craig Gordon made another good save a moment ago from Jeppe Ockels on loan from Preston North End. And now Aberdeen have a free kick about 23-24 yards out with 3 minutes of extra time left. So we'll see if they can score a screamer of a winner here.
One of the football line could be a really memorable afternoon for fans of Bury today. 6 years after they were kicked out of the Football League. Reformed in 2023 after 2 supporter-led groups merged. Bury need 1 point from this afternoon's game against Burscough Athletic to be crowned champions of the North West Counties League Premier Division. And Gig Lane will be bouncing. More than 7,000 tickets have been sold. Right now on BBC Two, Super League action, Lee Leopards, Warrington Wolves. Ian Chisney.
Just a good moment because Lee have scored another try, their third of the game. Frankie Holton has gone over. Earlier in the second half, it was Ethan O'Neill crossing the line. Warrington mounting to climb now. Lee 16, Warrington Wolves 2.
Thank you very much, Ian. In the Women's Super League, 2 full-time scores to bring you: Brighton 1, Liverpool 2 and West Ham 0. Manchester United 0. Goal at Hampden, Kenny Crawford.
2 minutes of extra time left and it's Hearts 1, Aberdeen 2, and Palestine international striker Ode Dabag was in the right place at the right time. Craig Gordon could only palm this one out into his path 6 yards out after Aberdeen went forward, and he stabbed it into the roof of the net. It's Hearts 1, Aberdeen 2. Aberdeen looking like they'll be in their first Scottish Cup final since 2017.
About to get underway in the Premier League at the London Stadium for West Ham Southampton, at Brentford versus Brighton, and at Selhurst Park for Palace versus Bournemouth. At 5:30 in full, Aston Villa versus Newcastle United. But our base now is Goodison Park for Everton against Manchester City with Chris Sutton and Ian Dennis.
Thanks, Steve. On a weekend where the Premier League title could be won, or both of the relegation places could be settled between now and the end of the season, the main focus will be on Champions League qualification for next season. It is the top 5 and Manchester City are firmly in the mix for that. They're currently occupying 5th position as they look to hold off Chelsea and Aston Villa. And they've got to overcome an Everton team who have become really stubborn opposition under David Moyes, Chris Sutton.
Yeah, they have done. I mean, you think when David Moyes took over, Everton were in a relegation battle. They're now 17 points clear of that battle, and of course very safe. But the confidence has grown. I think two losses in 13 games. David Moyes has made such a difference. I think the difference is a little bit more stubborn at the back, but they pack more of a punch going forward.
Well, they've named an unchanged side in their royal blue shirts and white shorts. It's Pickford in goal, O'Brien, Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Mikolenko, Garner, Gay, Decore, Harrison, Broja and Njai. It's the same team that beat Nottingham Forest last weekend at the City ground. Manchester City, who are in their all-burgundy outfit, have made 4 changes. One of them is in goal, Ortega replacing the injured Edison. Nunes comes in at right back. The other 3 changes, Bernardo Silva, Savinho, also coming into the team as well as we're underway. Our referee is Simon Hooper. The full Manchester City side is Ortega in goal, a back 4 of Mateus Nunes, Diaz, Gvardiol and O'Reilly, Gonzalez, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, Savinho and Marmouche. They are defending the park end away towards our right-hand side. They're attacking the Gladys Street end as Garner swings one in, and it's well claimed as he reached high and backwards by Stefan Ortega, his 18th appearance of the season, and in a luminous orange goalkeeping outfit. It was a confident take as the Manchester City supporters over on that far side are in good voice. But here at Goodison Park, Everton, who actually haven't got a particularly good record against Manchester City, they've not beaten them in 16 games in all competitions, will hope to keep up their upward trajectory under Mr. Moyes.
Yeah, they certainly will. And from Manchester City's perspective, we talk about that race for the Champions League. It's massive for them to go back to Manchester with the 3 points.
Here is Savinho with the cutback into the 6-yard area, and it was Mikolenko who was tucked in. Just looking to see who was actually going to play through the middle for Manchester City today, and I'm not too sure whether it was just because he drifted out to this left-hand side or whether they're not going to have anybody to try and occupy the 2 central defenders, because Marmouche is drifting out to Savinho. De Bruyne has pushed up as well.
Yeah, well, he's done it before, hasn't he, Pep Guardiola, and I think against Crystal Palace, Marmouche more or less hogged that left-hand side. But we know they're so adaptable, aren't they, the Manchester City players? We've seen that over the seasons.
Gonzalez out towards that far side. Bernardo Silva, the grand old lady, in good voice for the Everton supporters. There will be many who might not be able to come to Goodison Park for the 2 remaining matches after this, Ipswich Town and then Southampton, and it's finally been confirmed the kick-off time for the 18th of May, midday, for that fond farewell, an emotional farewell. So many an Everton fan here might be inside Goodison Park for their final time. A ground that has certainly provided many a memory, one of the great stadiums in English football. There's a nice little flick by Decore. Harrison, Broja couldn't hold it up. O'Reilly now for Manchester City, infield to Gundogan, closed down quickly by Gay. Runs out towards Branthwaite and out to Mikolenko, sweeps it first time, bounces off the legs of Njai, picked up by De Bruyne. De Bruyne has Gundogan and Marmoush ahead of him. Tarkowski with a well-timed challenge. Everton are back in possession, 0-0.
Yeah, it's just a little bit careless from Njai out on that Everton left-hand side, heavy touch. Ball bounced back towards Kevin De Bruyne, whose early pass. Just wonder whether Marmoush could have got a shot off, but Tarkowski, working off his first touch, made the interception.
Not much time to settle on the ball, is there, in the middle of the playing field?
Yeah, it's very congested. Just, you mentioned the Manchester City setup. Bernardo Silva has gone out to that right-hand side. Just on the ball now. Lovely crossfield ball from Guardiola.
And here is Bernardo Silva in towards De Bruyne with a cutback. Two Everton players had read it, both Garner and Tarkowski. Yeah, they're playing with a false nine, aren't they? It's Marmoush and De Bruyne just slightly withdrawn, with Gundogan looking to try and make the run through the midfield as well. Savinho providing the width on the left, and as Chris Sutton says, Bernardo Silva on the right-hand side. It's a high, but the clouds are high. It's 0-0. There's a cross from Manchester City on that far side. Gundogan brings it down, stabs it into the path of Gonzalez, 25 yards out from goal. There was no width on that occasion, so Savinho now is only trotting out to the left as Diaz's ball in field, headed away by Tarkowski, headed back by Gonzalez. Marmoush coming back from an offside position, doesn't bother going for it, and it's through it to the feet of Jordan Pickford, as we welcome listeners to the BBC World Service to Goodison Park, this famous old ground built in 1892, the 133rd and final season, a ground that has hosted an FA Cup final, a World Cup semi-final. It's hosted also the most top-flight football than any other stadium in England, as it remains 0-0, and it's full-time at Hampden. Kenny Crawford.
And Aberdeen are into their first Scottish Cup final since 2017, thanks to Ode Dabag's goal in the 118th minute. Extra time looked like moving on to penalties, but Dabag's strike just from 6 yards into the roof of the net meant Aberdeen won it 2-1 against nine-man Hearts. They had a man sent off in 44 minutes and a man sent off in 115 minutes. Aberdeen had gone in front thanks to Craig Gordon's own goal, not much he could do about that, and then Lawrence Shanklin equalised just before the half-hour mark. But then that goal by Palestinian Dabag has meant Aberdeen fans, 20-odd thousand of them, are celebrating. Hearts 1, Aberdeen 2.
And they'll play the winners of St Johnstone Celtic, who meet at Hampden tomorrow at 3 o'clock. 5.5 minutes played. Diaz hits the ball out of defence, so Bryan heads it away. Garner's ball will not be kept in play by Harrison. It'll run out for a City throw. Chris Sutton.
Yeah, a little bit careless there from Everton, and they won the ball back. Marmoush making the run out in that left-hand channel, trying to get on the inside of O'Brien, but Tarkowski read that long ball well.
Feels strange for a Saturday afternoon and not have the Football League games to be going to. You're going to have to work a little harder than you have done early this season, Chris. Normally you just tell me that you turn up on a Saturday, you don't say a great deal, you take the paycheck and then head to the 606 studios with your chauffeur.
But there's a reason I don't say a lot, because you don't let me say a lot, Ian.
6 minutes played. We will of course keep you in touch with the three other games that are taking place at 3 o'clock in the Premier League, starting at Brentford with John Southall.
Well, it's Brentford 0, Brighton 0, but great early chance for Brentford. Schade on the left-hand side, picked out Johan Wieser 10 yards out, saved by Verbruggen with his right foot. Should have probably scored that. Norgard on the rebound over the bar. Brentford 0, Brighton 0.
Bernardo Silva is forward, can't get past Mikolenko, plays the ball in field. Mateus Nunes back to Bernardo Silva. Gonzalez with his back to goal. Gay snapping away at the heels. Gvardiol's forward ball. Nunes gives the chase, doesn't keep it in play. It'll be an Everton goal kick as they defend the Gladys Street end away towards our left-hand side. We'll go to Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth. Henry Moran.
Still goalless. Eberici Eze for Palace has looked lively, looking to try and remedy some of the damage done from that quite abysmal penalty taken against Newcastle in that 5-0 loss in the week. Still goalless.
And we'll stay in the capital. Aaron Paul's at West Ham.
West Ham 0, Southampton 0. Big chance of the home side early on. Lucas Paquetá on the right-hand side, given acres and acres of space just to drive into the box. Popped a beautiful ball into the near post for Nicholas Füllkrug. Shot towards the bottom left-hand corner of Aaron Ramsdale's goal. Good save from the Saints keeper. West Ham 0, Southampton 0.
It's Everton 0, Manchester City 0. Pickford his penalty area to Ndai, laid off towards Gay, out towards Mikolenko, far side the left, back it goes to Branthwaite. I noticed that Thomas Tuchel assistant Anthony Barry, who actually began his career as a youth team player at Everton, is here today watching on. You would imagine that Branthwaite must be a contender for the next England squad for those qualifiers in June. As Njai out to Mikolenko, his forward ball, and then they were arriving. In fact, there were too many arriving. Decore and Harrison got in each other's way. Goal kick.
Do you know what? So brave, Everton, playing out through the Manchester City press. Out on the right-hand side, and Dye put the burners on between a couple of Manchester City midfielders. Ball out left, and then deep cross, diagonal cross, and you're right. Decore had made a run, so had Harrison, and they got in each other's way. That was half an opportunity wasted.
It's actually only one qualifier at Andorra, and then they've got the friendly against Senegal at Nottingham Forest City Ground for those England games in June, as O'Brien waits to take a throw on this near side for Everton. It remains goalless, been playing for nearly 9 minutes on BBC Radio 5 Live. BBC World Service, pleasure to have your company as always on this Saturday afternoon, wherever you may be, and also available on the BBC Sounds app. As there's now been a goal at Brentford, John Southall.
And Brentford have the lead. Brentford 1, Brighton 0. Lovely through ball to Brian Mbeumo into the penalty area, and as he does, slotted it in. 17th of the season. Brentford 1, Brighton 0.
Brighton going into that game 4 without a win. Brentford 1 win in 6, but Brentford are 1-0 up. Crystal Palace, Bournemouth 0-0, as is West Ham United against relegated Southampton. Mikolenko high up the pitch, left-hand side, infield towards Njai. Njai waits, rolls it slightly backward of square towards Gay, holds off Gundogan, back out towards the left. Mikolenko's ball in. Harrison waits for it to drop, drops at his shins, and then can't get past O'Reilly, and there'll be a free kick in there. O'Reilly going to ground, and a free kick to Manchester City, 0-0.
Yeah, I think the way Everton play, we'll see Mikolenko get higher up on that left-hand side than O'Brien will on the right-hand side. Early cross from Mikolenko. O'Reilly actually misjudged the ball and went all the way through to Jack Harrison. The ball went the other side of O'Reilly. I think got his body in, and Harrison made the foul. Just worry about Manchester City a little bit. You think that, you know, Everton have a bit more athleticism throughout their team than City.
That must have been a push. It was Marmoush on Tarkowski.
Didn't he? He bought that, Tarkowski. I mean, big, strong centre-half. Slightest of touches. Went down easily, didn't he, there, Ian?
You'd have done the same, though, wouldn't you? Yes, you would.
I'd have stayed on my feet and headed the ball back.
Tarkowski takes the free kick, and Njai makes the run. Couldn't bring it out from underneath the out of the air into his right boot. Just went away from him and through to Ortega. Must say as well, whenever I've come to Goodison Park in over the years, Rich is an Everton fan who's always waiting just to say hello and to give us a few treats from time and time again. And his wife Karen would normally be sat with Rich here at Goodison Park, but she's got an ankle injury at the minute. She's damaged her ankle, so big listeners of 5 Live. So Karen, I hope we wish you well, and thank you to you both for your generosity. I've got a little goodie bag to take home with me.
Yeah, I've got 4 Whisper bars. If you want to take 3 home.
Well, I would imagine that's for the team of 4 who you're with, if you're feeling generous.
Well, they were given to me. I'll make a decision later.
Here is Ruben Diaz, back to Ortega. Chips it out and long, headed back by Njai, bounces off the chest of Idrissa Gueye. Njai over the halfway line, keeps the ball in play, and Everton go back. Branthwaite across to Tarkowski. Savinho closed him down quickly. Tarkowski had to clear it, and clear it quickly. Gonzalez sweeps the ball forward. Bernardo Silva right-hand side. Marmoush and Savinho wait inside the penalty area. De Bruyne went on the overlap, but it was held up by Mikolenko, who chips it up towards Broja, trying to get on the end of that, and it will be a City throw.
Not quick enough from Bernardo Silva. It's a good opportunity for Manchester City. Kevin De Bruyne making the overlap, and Silva, the ball getting stuck under his feet a little bit, and he was intercepted. He doesn't have that ability in the wide areas anymore, Bernardo Silva, where he can go past players. Fantastic footballer, but you sort of know what he's going to do when he gets on the ball. He's always going to try and feed a pass through.
Gundogan goes across to Diaz. De Bruyne drops a little shorter to collect the ball. They work it out to that far side. Bernardo Silva almost at a walking pace. Midway through the Everton half. It remains 0-0. Gonzalez to O'Reilly. Back to Gonzalez once again. Both the fullbacks are inverted. This is Mateus Nunes out to Bernardo Silva, runs forward. Mikalenko just drops off a little bit, and then back it goes to Mateus Nunes, right corner of the penalty area. De Bruyne wanders across. It's a first-time ball in from De Bruyne, and Savinho can't get there. He says he was being pulled back, actually, as he tried to get on the end of it from Simon Hooper, and Guardiola's also complaining to the fourth official and making that point too.
Yeah, Pep Guardiola is furious, having words with the fourth official. Is there enough contact? That's the question. Is there sufficient contact for him to go down in that manner? My gut reaction initially, Ian, was there wasn't enough contact, and Savinho should have been stronger and stayed on his feet. And I think there's no further action been taken.
And the fact that the play was quickly back underway as swiftly as it was suggests that VAR dismissed it as quickly as Chris Sutton, even quicker. Rugby League update, Ian Chisnell.
Lee looked home and hosed at 18-2, but two Warrington tries, Toby King and Matty Ashton, both converted by Mark Sneed. It's Lee Leopards 18, Warrington Wolves 12, 7.5 to go.
BBC Radio 5 live at Goodison Park, 0-0. Brentford still lead Brighton by a goal to nil. No goals at Selhurst Park or the London Stadium. Ball just squirms loose out towards Bernardo Silva. Mateus Nunes outside the right side of the centre circle. Savinho now is going to get the bird from the Everton supporters. He's being booed after he touches that ball off the chest, and now it's back with Gvardiol and O'Reilly seeing a lot of the ball but can't find a way past those royal blue shirts.
No, they're keeping the ball well. I'd love to see that incident again where the Savinho maybe could have got a header on that cross.
Marmouche into Gundogan. Gundogan side onto goal. Now with his back to goal, brings it outside the penalty area. This is Mateus Nunes who's going to shoot. Slips as he does so, and Pickford actually made the save. And it was a very good, strong left arm by Jordan Pickford. He was low down to his left, turned it behind for a corner kick.
I think he saw this late, Jordan Pickford. I think Brantwaite is just standing in his line of sight, and Nunes, good little shift inside onto his left foot, his weaker left foot, but he catches it pretty well as heading into the corner. And Pickford, a smart save with his left hand.
Yet to score in the Premier League for Manchester City, Mateus Nunes. Jordan Pickford, who kept his first clean sheet in 10 against Nottingham Forest last weekend. Corner kick, still 0-0, 5 live. We're in the 16th minute. De Bruyne is going to take it far side the right. Right arm goes aloft. It's a right-footed low ball in, and it was partially cleared by Mikalenko, but it goes only as far as De Bruyne again on that right-hand side. Passes the ball to Nunes, who won the corner initially. Back out to the Belgian. He lays it off. And now with Gundogan in field, and Everton have dropped off every blue shirt back behind the ball, as Marmouche now is gone to the left and Savinho has gone into a central area, so they're rotating at Manchester City. O'Reilly, short and forward, gets it back from De Bruyne, then helps it towards Mateus Nunes. Everton, the minute, just can't get a touch, Chris.
No, but they're quite happy in their setup, narrowing up, trying to make Manchester City play out wide. You can see Nico O'Reilly, the Manchester City left back, in that inverted role, trying to get an overload in there. And I think in the main, David Moyes will be happy if Manchester City do get the ball out wide and they throw balls in with the size that the Everton back line have.
Here is Gvardiol. He goes square. Ball forward eventually to Gonzalez. De Bruyne. Gundogan now coming forward. He tries to switch play out to this near side. With the edge of a deflection, it does reach Savinho. Pushes on the outside of O'Brien, slips, falls on his backside, and O'Brien then will use his strength just to safely marshal that ball out of play for a goal kick.
Yeah, little and large, wasn't it? That tussle. Savinho slipping and then getting back on his feet, but it's taken a touch, and O'Brien just let the ball run out and eased Savinho out of it. Interesting, he's playing off that left-hand side. But if you asked him, he preferred to play off the right, but maybe Pep's targeted O'Brien in that right-back area.
0-0 is still the scoreline here at Goodison Park. Harrison can't get the better of O'Reilly's back goal side, tries to play it short on the infield towards Decore. Pacey ball towards Harrison, he links up with Decore, but there was Gvardiol to cut it out. Let's get an update from Brentford. John Southall.
Brentford 1, Brighton 0. Good open game this. Brighton a stirring. Minter with a header into the side netting, and Welbeck just went down under a challenge from Flecken. Penalty not given. Brentford 1, Brighton 0.
18 minutes played here, and it remains 0-0. As Bernardo Silva goes back, Diaz will go further back to Ortega, and now it's the other central defender, Gvardiol, who's left-hand side to play for a throw. Over on that far side, Everton have a throw. Chris,
that's absolutely perfect, isn't it, for Everton? If Ortega's going to start trying to hit diagonal balls to the right-hand side for Bernardo Silva to try and beat Mikolenko in the air.
Have you talked about the record that you hold here at Goodison Park yet?
Well, I don't anymore, Ian, do I, unfortunately?
As the ball forward, looking for Brogy to run in behind, knocked up in the air by Gvardiol. Well, you do in the sense that you've scored the quickest away goal as an away player at Goodison Park.
Well, yeah, and that's right. It was the quickest goal ever before Decore. Did he score after 9 seconds?
Against Leicester.
Yeah, that was... I mean, 143 years, and I could have been top of that list.
Yeah.
I'm just about unlucky, aren't I?
Yeah, it's actually 133 years.
Is it?
Yeah. 1892, the ground was built.
Oh, only 10 out.
Yeah. Well, that was back in 1995.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Just a matter of seconds has robbed you from a place of Goodison history, a little slice of history.
I scored my last ever goal in for Aston Villa. I'm sure Aston Villa fans remember it well.
Here is Diaz. Whilst we've just been chuntering away to each other, Grace, the producer, has told me where to go, and I've forgotten where it was. And in the meantime,
she's told you where to go.
Well, in the meantime, she's clearly taken a sandwich thinking that I'd remember, and I hadn't. But I think it was Crystal Palace and Henry Moran.
It was. It is Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0. Good chance for Palace. Wharton releasing Munoz, ball across goal, stud length away from Mateta, turning it home. Palace 0, Bournemouth 0.
20 minutes played, and it's still goalless. We've only had that one effort so far, where Mateus Nunes with that Pickford save after a quarter of an hour. We've got Aston Villa, Newcastle United to come at 5:30. That's after Sports Report with all the results and the reaction. 6:06 with Chris Sutton and Robbie Savage. And then 5 Live, Premier League Sunday from midday tomorrow. Offside against Harrison will be Ipswich Arsenal at 2. Leicester City Liverpool to follow at 4:30. Manchester United Wolves, commentaries on Sports Extra at 2. And on the website, Fulham against Chelsea. And then because of the Football League in action on Easter Monday, we'll be back around the grounds in the Football League from 2:30. That's why we're not as frenetic as we normally would be with the usual goal service on a Saturday afternoon, whether you're listening to 5 Live or indeed the World Service. A little bit more relaxed.
It's a bit more relaxed. And are you going to appeal to everybody this afternoon, Ian? You're accused of being posh in the week, I saw, which surprised me.
Surprised me. I'm regretting being generous after bringing you an Easter egg today. As here is Gundogan over the halfway line on that far side, the right. Diaz has actually gone on ahead of him. De Bruyne plays it back. Everton haven't been overly stretched, though, have they?
No, they haven't. And Manchester City, not enough pace to the passing, really. Everton happy to just sit back in their shape, and Manchester City have to move the ball quicker to try and find little gaps and openings.
Savinho comes in off the left touchline. Again, has to pass the ball back to Gvardiol. Both the full-backs, though, are ahead of the 2 centre-backs. Here is Savinho. O'Brien, though, quick to close him down. Helped out by Harrison. And once more, dealt with effectively by Everton. West Ham, Aaron Paul.
0-0 here. Another big chance for West Ham United. This time missed by James Ward. Prowse, left-footed shot, left side of the area. Easily claimed by Aaron Ramsdale. But Southampton have a free kick in a dangerous area right down by the byline. It is a ball which is about to be swung in. I don't know if you want to stick with me. I don't know what's going to happen with it, obviously, but it's not been the most exciting of contests so far. Ian, let me tell you that. West Ham 0, Southampton 0. The referee Andrew Kitchen just taking his time. If you want to go back, go on, Ian. You can have it back.
Thank you, Aaron. And the ball goes back towards Ortega.
That would have been pretty amazing had Aaron known what was going to happen, though, wouldn't it?
It would have been, yeah. He would prove to be a very expensive individual, because he'd be a man in demand.
Yeah, Mystic Meg.
Ball goes out to that far side. Bernardo Silva, high line from Everton. That Everton flag on the stand on the far side is getting a real buffeting as Mateus Nunes runs back into a central area. Gvardiol goes back to Ortega. Manchester City lacking a few ideas here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's down to Everton's organisation, and they've mixed up the press pretty well there. Careless pass from Ortega.
Harrison now, right-hand side, crosses deep, and it's arcing over the head of Broja and Njai and goes out for a goal kick. That said, at the other end of the field, Everton haven't created anything.
Not really. They had the opportunity, the early cross from Ghana, which Ortega was too close to the Manchester City goalkeeper. He gathered that, and then Harrison in a good crossing position overhit that cross. Interesting centre-forward selection from David Moyes, going for Broja over Beto once again. Bit of competition up top for David Moyes now.
Only the second time that Amanda Broja has started back-to-back games for Everton. It's only his 11th appearance since he joined from Chelsea. Beto, who had been doing well, is now all of a sudden, for consecutive weekends, on the substitute bench behind the Albanian, as Gonzalez holds off Doucouré to De Bruyne, back to Gonzalez over the halfway line, and then drops back inside his own half to find Diaz. Full time now in the Rugby League. Ian Chisnell.
Lee Leopards 18, Warrington Wolves 14. Wolves had trailed 18-2 beyond the hour, but tries from King and Ashton weren't enough to deny Lee, who had Ipapi, O'Neill and Holton crossing the whitewash. Lee 18, Warrington 14.
Gvardiol hits a pacey ball for Savinho to get onto the end of. He doesn't. It runs through towards the arms of Jordan Pickford, and Pickford all in green in front of the Gladys Street end, away towards our left, throws it out underarm towards James Tarkowski. When David Moyes was appointed back in January, they were 1 point above the bottom three. They are now 17 points clear of the relegation zone. And I thought it was interesting when he was in that conversation with Julia Bold that we heard ahead of the game that, you know, when he first came in, they thought it might go to within 3 games towards the end of the season. And here they are. And they've been comfortable for a while, such as the way that he stabilised things on his second coming at Goodison Park. Doucouré picks it up now for Everton over the halfway line. Out it goes to Mikalenko, 6 yards over the halfway line. Back towards Ghana. Branthwaite and Njai. Harrison's gone into a central area. Gay is the one who's actually then been created the width on the right, but they've lost the ball, and Marmouche showed too much of it towards Ghana. Everton win it back.
Yeah, it's brilliant recovery from Ghana. Careless from Njai. Once again, from Everton's point of view, and Manchester City had a counter-attack chance, and Ghana snuffed it out.
Gay, Harrison, square ball, and Njai rolls away from De Bruyne, passes it to his left. Doucouré goes forward, out towards that left-hand side for Mikalenko, in front of the travelling support. 0-0 it remains. We've been playing for 26.5 minutes. Branthwaite, every outfield player now is in the Manchester City half over on that far side. Mikalenko short. Ghana. O'Brien has actually ventured forward. He's trying to stay onside at the moment. He's taken Savinho back with him, which allows O'Reilly to go a little bit tighter, a little bit more compact as a back unit. Good spell though for Everton in terms of keeping the ball, as then Tarkowski hits it long to Mikalenko, gets his head onto it, but it will run out of play for a goal kick.
A long diagonal ball. Mikalenko, a real challenge, couldn't keep it in. Yeah, listening to David Moyes in the week, I think he was asked about Everton and their possession last week at Nottingham Forest. I think they had 58% possession, and you know, are they more a more possession-based team now under him? He said he's only worried about being effective. He's not giving a damn about possession stats and keeping the ball. It's about how you use the ball. And I've got to say, since he has come back, we've mentioned it many times, they've been a greater threat, haven't they, in the final third? They've scored more goals. I think what's happened is they've got Decore a little bit closer to the centre forward, whether it's Broja or Beto, and Jai off that left-hand side playing narrower. Mikalenko will play a little bit higher up, and we've spoken about O'Brien. He'll be more of a back support as a right back.
Well, here he is, O'Brien, and his touch was a very heavy one. Harrison, though, did well to keep the ball in play. Back towards O'Brien, swings over the cross, off the chest of Guardiola. Inside the penalty area, Gundogan will clear. It'll drift out of play for an Everton throw, almost on the halfway line.
Dare I say that's why he's more of a back support. Because when he gets into the final third, he may not quite have the quality of Mikalenko. A couple of misplaced passes then.
But as a defender, you'll improve your distribution as a fullback more as a central defender, would you not?
Well, I would have thought he'd see more of the ball in a right-back position.
Broja, referee Simon Hooper says there was no foul. O'Reilly clears it, but he scuffed it, goes straight through to O'Brien. And back towards Tarkowski. Tarkowski turns and sees it all the way back to Jordan Pickford. I'm sure that when Micah Richards came into the side for Manchester City, it was designed to, I mean, I know in the end he was more as a right back, but he was played there to help his distribution rather than as a central defender. Whether he had ideas more of being a central defender at his infancy stages of his career.
Yeah, well, that's sort of dependent on how managers see certain situations, isn't it?
Mikalenko crosses the ball towards Harrison, stays onside. Decore back towards Harrison. A little stumble by O'Reilly, commits himself as well. Harrison takes it away from him. Right hand side, plays it back. Ball then by O'Brien towards Harrison, onto his left foot, in swinging cross, comes off the head of a City player, a tumbling Diaz, and it behind for an Everton corner kick with half an hour played, 0-0.
Yeah, really important touch from Diaz. Harrison out on that right-hand side. We know he likes to chop inside on his left foot, puts a delicious ball in. Just surprised Decore doesn't try and attack that. Could have done, should have done, he didn't, and Diaz got a vital touch, but this is where Everton can cause a problem or two for Manchester City.
Well, we saw only last week how Crystal Palace struggled at set pieces. Manchester City against Palace, here they are, and a lot of pushing and shoving going on as in it comes, and it's into a very crowded 6-yard area, off the post, and then Nunes manages to get the ball away, and that was a real scare there for Manchester City.
Tarkowski, the ball was floated actually in, and Tarkowski, the ball behind him, had to move back and directed his header. I think we thought it was in, off the post, and Manchester City get away with one.
Harrison runs forward once more. He does well on the right-hand side and wins another corner kick. Oh, I thought it came off the shins of O'Reilly. The referee said a goal kick.
Yeah, I think it rebounded back off Harrison. But Tarkowski does brilliantly, as I've mentioned. Has to come back out the way and then direct his header. Ortega's not getting it, off the post and scrambled clear. It's a good weapon for Everton, isn't it? Those set plays, they're so organised, so good at them. Tarkowski, how many times over the years have we seen him be a nuisance in the opposition box?
It was off the right-hand post as we look as Everton in their royal blue shirts and white shorts play from left to right with just over 13 minutes to go to half-time. 0-0. The game, a few chances. Bernardo Silva picks it up on that right-hand side. 21 points they have collected from 13 Premier League games under David Moyes. They picked up 13 points from the previous 13. As Manchester City have been awarded a free kick midway through the Everton half, which is a good 10 or so yards in from that right touchline. Everton, though, with Broja back on defensive duties, dropping in between O'Brien and Tarkowski. You've got Diaz, who's up from the back. Guardiola is also in there as well. O'Reilly, so they've got a lot of height to get on the end of this De Bruyne free kick, and in it comes now, and the referee's whistle has blown. Simon Hooper And he spotted an infringement, and it'll be a free kick to Everton with just over 10 minutes to the break.
What a ball from Kevin De Bruyne as Tarkowski, who was fouled, and Jordan Pickford unhappy. He just hit a raking 70-yard pass, Jordan Pickford to Njai, who had made a run forward. I think he was onside as well. May have got in on goal. Pickford has got such a great range of passing, hasn't he, England's number one? He's like an outfield player with his feet. He's absolutely sensational.
Well, he was certainly frustrated that by the referee, Simon Hooper, as Garner gives it back to Tarkowski. Back then to the feet of Jordan Pickford once again. Actually puts his foot on top of the ball with his left boot. David Moyes waving his hands and his fingers, desperate to get the attention of his keeper as he rolls it up towards Garner. Laid off then to Branthwaite. He will go back to Pickford, who's outside of his penalty area. De Bruyne tries to cut off one angle. He passes the ball forward, and Garner towards Njai, central area. Now out towards Mykolenko, high up on that left-hand side, and Mykolenko dispossessed by Bernardo Silva, who flicks the ball to Mateus Nunes. Decore tries to win it back. Everton with Branthwaite, had his shirt pulled by Marmoush. Free kick.
They're good out of possession as well, Everton. They look a bit stronger, a bit more dynamic than Manchester City at this moment in time.
Harrison against his former club, looking a little tricky on the right-hand side. No foul for that challenge from O'Reilly. Play goes on. And it's Garner who shrugs off the challenge of Marmoush. Gay comes to a standstill in the centre circle. Branthwaite hits the ball forward. Mykolenko waiting for it. Gets on the end of it, but Mateus Nunes deals with it and just shows too much strength and easily brushed off that of Mykolenko. And then it looked like Decore had won it back, and the referee's given a free kick against Decore.
Nunes did well initially, as you said, and then drove forward from near his byline, sort of nearly halfway into his half. Decore, I thought, pinched it off him, but the referee didn't.
0-0. No goals, remember, at Selhurst Park. West Ham Southampton is also 0-0. Brentford still have a lead by 1-0 against Brighton and Hove Albion. Aston Villa, Newcastle United, commentary to come from John Murray and Pat Nevin at 5:30 after Sports Report, as Gay chips it up towards Harrison. They're doubled up on Harrison on the right-hand side. He gets away from Savinho. He works over the cross, and it required Gonzalez to run back to head it away. O'Reilly to Savinho. His ball will go in field, but Mykolenko read it. His downward header to O'Reilly, plays it towards Bernardo Silva. Cushion control, turn from Gundogan, rolls it into the path of Savinho.
So it's all so slow though, so the ball's popped into Savinho inside the Everton half, 20 yards inside the Everton half. He doesn't drive at O'Brien, he goes backwards.
De Bruyne spreads play out towards Savinho, high off the chest, still being booed, jeered and whistled for that earlier incident, as he now delivers the cross, headed away by O'Brien, headed back by Gonzalez, headed away then further by Garner. Decore, Brogy just overran it and ran into trouble in Gvardiol. Manchester City have it, all in their burgundy outfit, with De Bruyne just forward of the centre circle. With 9 minutes remaining to half-time, still 0-0. What's happening at Selhurst Park? Henry Moran.
Very, very little. Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0, a game of startling mediocrity.
Any better at Brentford? John Southall.
Well, Brentford won Brighton 0. We had a really lively opening 20 minutes, and then we've just drifted a bit since then. Pedro's had a 20-yarder over the crossbar, and here come Brighton now, actually down the left-hand side, but cleared away by Brentford. Brentford won Brighton 0.
West Ham Southampton, Aaron Paul.
Kamaldeen Sulemana has hit the post for Southampton. A bit of a speculative effort. He swung a boot at it after Lucas Paquetá's poor clearance only reached the Southampton forward. That hit the post. Otherwise, not much else. West Ham 0, Southampton 0.
Savinho's cross from the left, and it goes off the legs of Branthwaite and diverted behind for a corner kick to Manchester City.
Do you know what? Better from Savinho. One thing in his mind there to get at O'Brien. Little dynamic shift onto his left foot, and the ball fizzed in from the left-hand side. O'Brien not a clean clearance. And Manchester City have an opportunity from a corner.
One thing you won't miss at Goodison Park is the stanchion that obscures our view as we look to the Gladys Street end away towards our left-hand side. And De Bruyne on this near side, the Manchester City left to take it, and it goes towards that far post, and it's come off ahead. I think it might have been Branthwaite again. Pickford has gone a long way to retrieve it. Then the ball was almost kept in play by Gundogan, and in the end it had to be knocked out for a throw as he hurriedly got back to his position.
What was Jordan Pickford doing? Just stay in your goal, Jordan.
In the end, from that throw, deep inside the Everton half, they go all the way back to Ortega as it's chested forward by a twisting torso of Bernardo Silva, and then it goes out for another Manchester City throw.
They may end up scoring, they may end up winning the game, but this Manchester City team, they've got a sort of testimonial sort of look about them, the speed they're playing at. It's all a bit slow, isn't it? And it's not the Manchester City which we... Oh, blimey, they've even taken a foul throw in. I mean, that's Sunday League stuff, that.
Well, Pep Guardiola ahead of the game was saying we're getting better, and 8 points out of a possible 12 is actually their best run of form since January.
Getting better, and they can't even take a throw in properly. Dear me.
Just over 6 minutes to go.
You don't often see that, do you?
You don't,
When was the last time, I mean, you're an experienced commentator, when was the last time you saw a foul throw?
I struggled to remember last week, let alone when I saw the last foul throw. In fact, I struggle sometimes to remember where Grace, the producer, is going to tell me to go. So you're asking the wrong person, Christopher. Here is Decore. Garner down the line to Harrison, couldn't quite keep the ball in play, and it goes out for a Manchester City throw. Anything you'd like to add at this stage?
No, I think Everton will be the happier team. I think it's just, the final third, they've maybe sort of lacked with that final ball, but they seem to be the more dynamic team.
Decore away from Gvardiol, and then actually Gvardiol recovered very, very well, got the challenge in, and it bounced up the body of Decore, last touch out for a goal kick. But just when you thought he'd been shown a glimpse of goal, the Croatian was back at Decore.
Absolutely. I think it was poor initially from Gvardiol, letting the ball run the other side of him, and then Decore got in and drove to the byline. But Gvardiol, great recovery, run and block. Bit of urgency from a Manchester City player. We haven't seen that enough in this first half.
He prefers centre-back to left-back, does Gvardiol. As O'Brien goes with a back pass to Jordan Pickford, and he hits it first time left-footed. 5 minutes to go to the break. 0-0. Still a tight contest. Garner goes into a challenge with Gundogan. Marmoush manages to prod the ball back at pace to Gonzalez. Everton still ratting around in the midfield.
Barely seen Marmoush though. I don't know how many touches he's had in the first half, but not many.
No. Still without Haaland. Foden, who missed the midweek game against Crystal Palace, is on the bench. Akanji is also back on the bench after a while out. Hasn't played since the game against Real Madrid in the Champions League back in February. But Marmoush has had 12 touches, which is actually the fewest touches on the field.
I'm surprised he's had 12. But everything is just so slow, and too many touches from the Manchester City players. A real lack of urgency and belief, and a lack of purpose with the passing.
Savinho's only had 15. Here is Savinho, make that 16 to De Bruyne, carves the ball up, goes behind Savinho and out of play for a throw. Not been a great deal of threat from Manchester City.
They're just, the greatest respect, they just don't have the legs anymore in the middle of the park. Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne, Gundogan, great players they've been. They lack that dynamism.
Ball is hoisted high. Decore keeps the ball in play on this right-hand side and turns Gvardiol inside out, not once but twice. If he could open it up towards that far side, he could find Mykolenko. Here is Mykolenko. He lays it short, infield towards Gay. And City now all of a sudden have got a lot of shirts back. Gay chips it. Harrison and Mark brings it under control, clips it. Did strike the hand of Savinho. but I think that would have to be a harsh one, would it?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say Ian, is the arm was outstretched out from his body. You know, when we talk about the silhouette, his arm wasn't down by his side.
VAR will be having a look at that. Play meanwhile continues. Bernardo Silva chips it forward. Mateus Nunes with the cut back. It might fall towards De Bruyne. He hits it. What an effort that was to divert the ball away. That was Branthwaite. He just threw himself in front of that from De Bruyne. He'd hit it sweetly. He'd hit it low left-footed. But Branthwaite, that was not passing. Behind for a corner
I
kick.
think it was O'Brien in the end. But you're absolutely right. That is an unbelievable piece of defending from O'Brien. De Bruyne, 16 yards out left-footed, is finding the bottom corner, and O'Brien flings himself to his right-hand side, and a diving header, reaction diving header to put it behind. Brilliant defending.
It was, you're right, and it was O'Brien. I just thought it was Branthwaite. It happened in a flash. The corner kick is taken. It goes very, very deep. The fact that play is back underway again says that VAR has had a swift look at that penalty appeal for Everton.
I mean, it's an interesting one because is in such close proximity, isn't he? When Harrison pops the ball up, and I think it's Savinho, wasn't it? His arm outstretched, right arm outstretched. It does hit his arm, but I think the right decision. That would have been particularly harsh.
There is not going to be any additional time, so we will be finished dead on 45 minutes. And I've already seen Trevor Stephen and Peter Reid and Paul Bracewell and Derek Mountfield here today, but I'm told that title-winning team of 1985 will be on parade at half-time here at Goodison Park. That will be a treat for the Evertonians. That was one of the great English sides, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I'd have been about 12 then, but no, I mean, Everton in those mid-80s, they were absolutely phenomenal. Some exceptional players.
I think I was only 7. Here is Gvardiol just short of the halfway line. Savinho in field. Gundogan able to turn and plays the ball back. So we're inside.
All I would say, if you were 7, you haven't aged well.
De Bruyne out towards Bernardo Silva on the right. Infield now. Mateus Nunes joins the attack. It is 0-0, and we are inside the last 5 seconds, and as the ball goes back, the referee will look at his watch, and where we are, bang on 45 minutes, the half-time whistle sounds. Everton 0, Manchester City 0. Pickford with a good save from Mateus Nunes, good block from O'Brien from De Bruyne, whereas for Everton, that Tarkowski header coming back off the right-hand post. Chris Sutton.
Yeah, we've not seen a lot of goalmouth action. I mean, from Everton's perspective, we know that they're safe. David Moyes has done a fantastic job. I think they've maybe edged it in this first half. Manchester City, with what's at stake, you know, Champions League spot, they are not playing with the desired urgency. I suspect Pep will be demanding a lot more from his Manchester City team at half-time.
Can't afford to drop points because it's so congested for a top 5 finish. There are 5 clubs separated by 5 points. Manchester City are in the thick of it, but here at the break it is Everton 0, Manchester City 0.
Henry Moran's last report was 5 words long. Now you've got something to talk about.
I do, a red card, and a totally needless one. Crystal Palace's Chris Richards getting a second booking for a needless tug back on a marauding Kluivert down the left-hand side. He's trudging off in front of me. No complaints, though. 2 silly bookings. Palace down to 10. Added time. Palace 0. Bournemouth 0.
Half-time at the London Stadium, Aaron Paul.
West Ham 0, Southampton 0. A game of real low quality here, Steve. Scrappy, limited chances. The better, however, for the side already relegated. Cameron Sulemana has hit the upright, a side-footed speculative volley which caught Areola off guard but bounced away. Carl Walker-Peters has drawn a really good opportunity wide. The home side, well, their best opportunity came inside the first couple of minutes. Nicholas Füllkrug with a shot at the near post that forced a decent stop out of Aaron Ramsdale. That's it. Otherwise, West Ham 0, Southampton 0.
Just on the way the West Ham fans are taking all this in, Aaron, do you think they're just kind of bored of this season and thinking, oh, forget it, let's see what you've got next year? Or, given who they're playing, Are they sort of thinking, well, come on, Graham Potter's West Ham, let's see what you're about?
You should have heard the boos at half-time, Steve.
Right.
I was quite surprised by this. I mean, it's not great. It's really, really rather dreadful. I've had a text from my pal Z, who's a massive Hammer, just texting me saying, dreadful, but we'll end up winning this 2-0.
Fair
it's
enough.
just the way it is, really.
Aaron, thank you. So 4 3:00 Premier League games, 1 goal. Count yourself lucky, John Southall.
Yeah, well, I said I had high expectations for this. Hasn't quite lived up to that. We had a lively opening 20 minutes, and then we've just gone into a bit of a lull. We're approaching half-time, and Brentford lead Brighton by 1-0. And Brighton over on the far side with Minte just trying to get to the byline. Is this one last opportunity for Brighton before the half-time whistle? Welbeck with a header, and Welbeck has scored it. Really good header into the bottom left-hand corner. Haven't looked like scoring in this first half, but right on half-time, he guides the ball into the bottom left-hand corner, and that's his 9th Premier League goal of the season. Brentford 1, Brighton 1.
And he's never scored 10, has he, in a Premier League season, John, in his whole brilliant career?
And that is surprising, isn't it? And you have to say now, at the age of 34, I think he's had a really good season. He's scored 9. That's actually his 10th goal in total this season. But you're right, that's his 9th league goal, and he's got a chance to reach 10 before the end of the season.
Thank you very much, John. We'll be back for the half-time whistle, which has now gone at Palace, Henry.
Half-time, 10-man Palace 0, Bournemouth 0, a game that has lacked quality, excitement and the prospect of a goal. The closest we've come, good move down the right. Palace cross in from Munoz, just evading Mateta, and then that madness from Richards sent off in added time for a second booking. Bournemouth will see this as a massive opportunity. Palace 0, Bournemouth 0.
And I just wonder for Palace as well, Henry, because they've got that FA Cup semi-final coming up. Obviously, they might start to think that their season is about that. You need momentum as well, though, don't you?
Well, you do, particularly given those results that we saw away from home. The 5-2 loss at City, the 5-0 loss at Newcastle. If they were to lose this game as well and then face a tricky trip midweek as well, it suddenly becomes a little bit awkward going into that Villa game next weekend. So, they'll see this as a very important half to make sure they hang on in. For Bournemouth, though, this is just a massive opportunity to build on that win against Fulham early on in the week.
So all games at half-time are level. Nobody is winning in that race for 8th place, including both of the teams at the G-Tech. John Southall.
Yeah, half-time, Brentford 1, Brighton 1. Looked like Brentford were going to go into half-time 1-0 up, but that Welbeck equaliser in the 3rd minute of added time. Brentford took the early lead. Lovely through ball from Keane Lewis Potter. Opened up the Brighton defence. Brian Mbeumo timed his run to perfection into the area and guided the ball in. His 17th of the season. He's offered a real threat in this first half. Then up to that last minute equalising goal at half-time. Brighton didn't create a great deal, but across from Weaver, and there was Danny Welbeck, 34 years old, still scoring goals, 9th of the season. His header into the bottom left-hand corner, and at half-time it's Brentford 1, Brighton 1.
OK, so 0-0 in the games between Palace and Bournemouth, West Ham and Southampton, and our commentary game at Goodison, Everton and Manchester City, all 0-0, and as John was just saying, goal apiece in the game between Brentford and Brighton. A couple of full times from earlier in the day. Finished Arsenal 1, Lyon 2 in the semi-final first leg of the Women's Champions League. In the Women's Super League, Liverpool won by 2-1 at Brighton. Finished West Ham 0, Manchester United 0. So a small hurdle, you could say, there for Manchester United. They're still 8 points clear of Manchester City in that final Champions League place, and they've only played 1 game more. Scottish Championship. So remember, this is significant down at the bottom end of the table and the top. At the bottom, Hamilton 0, Queen's Park 0. If it stays that way, Hamilton will be relegated this afternoon because of a 15-point deduction that they suffered earlier this week. They are, though, appealing it. Also, Airdrieonians are 1-0 down at home to Morton. If it stays that way, they will also know that they will finish 9th in the Championship relegation playoff place. All of that would mean Queen's Park this afternoon would know that they are staying in the Scottish Championship. The other scores, Falkirk lead Wraith Rovers by 1-0. If it stays that way, they'll be 6 points clear at the top with 2 games to go, with a goal difference as it stands, which is 16 better than Livingston. So they will be all but there, Falkirk, going back into the Scottish Premiership after 15 years away. The other score is Dunfermline 0, Partick Thistle 0. In Scottish League 1, we already know that Arbroath both have won the league, and as tends to happen in that situation, they are now losing. They're 2-1 down at Annan at half-time. That's significant for Annan and their fight against relegation. They would still be a point behind Inverness in the relegation playoff place. Inverness drawing 0-0 at Stenhousemuir. Other scores: Montrose 1, Dumbarton 1, Kelty Hearts 1, Queen of the South 1, Cove Rangers 1, Alloa 0. Scottish League 2, Peterhead could be promoted as champions this afternoon. However, they are 3-0 down at half-time at Elgin City. That would be their heaviest defeat of the whole season. That would be good news for East Fife, who leads Stirling at half-time by 2-0. If it stays that way with 2 games to go, the gap at the top will be just 1 point. Other scores: 4-0 Bonnyrigg Rose 1, Spartans 0, Clyde 0, Stranraer 1, Edinburgh City 0. And the other full-time was in the Scottish Cup semi-final. Aberdeen victorious by 2-1. They go through to the Scottish Cup final, where they'll meet St Johnstone or Celtic. Hearts had 2 players sent off in that game. Second half commentary then on the way from Goodison Park after the news with John Barnes.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thank you. Russian media is reporting that President Putin has declared an Easter truce in Ukraine. The Kremlin said it assumed Ukraine would follow its example, but it warned the head of the Russian army to be ready to respond to any further aggression. A 63-year-old man whose car was being followed by police in South London has died in a collision involving 2 other vehicles. 3 people had to be rescued by firefighters. 6 people were taken to hospital. 1 is said to have life-threatening injuries. The NASUWT Teaching Union has called for tighter regulations of social media providers to stop their users inciting others to hatred and violence. The union has warned of an increase in misogyny from boys caused by online influencers. And the online supermarket Ocado has apologised to the parenting website Mumsnet after previously describing comments it made in relation to the debate on transgender women as hateful political views. This week, the Supreme Court ruled that the definition of a woman should be based on biological sex.
It's all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor. F1. It's perfection from Piastri. He dominates in Bahrain and takes the win. It's George Russell in the Mercedes who finishes second, with Lando Norris recovering to third. Just a few days to go until Formula One hits the fastest street track on the calendar at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and Norris leads the championship by 3 points to teammate Piastri. Sunday at 6 on 5 Sports Extra
And BBC Sounds.
F1. And download the Checkered Flag podcast for interviews, reaction and analysis.
This is 5 Live Sport
with Steve Crossman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
In Super League, it finished Leigh 18, Warrington 14. England-Scotland in the Women's Six Nations 4:45, 5 Sports Extra. Day 1 of the World Snooker Championship at the Crucible. Let's check in there. Jamie Broughton.
And we're watching 2 former world champions in first-round action. Steve, Neil Robertson, the 2010 winner, taking on a tough first-round opponent in Chris Wakeling. Wakeling made a century, then a 70 break to go 2-0 up, but Robertson had responded with a break of 60 to reduce the arrears to 2-1. On the other table, the Welsh legend Mark Williams, a 3-time winner here. He's now 2-0 up against Wu Yize, the exciting young Chinese player. Earlier today, the defending champion Karen Wilson built a 6-3 lead against Li Pei Fan. They'll play to a finish at 7 o'clock tonight, with 10 the target for victory.
The half-time score is Bury 2, Burscough 0. We talked about this earlier. Bury reformed in 2023 after they were kicked out of the Football League 6 years ago. If they win this afternoon, they can be promoted as champions from the North West Counties Premier Division. Gig Lane has more than 7,000 fans in to see that, and as I say, they lead by 2-0 in the Women's Six Nations. A result: Italy 21, France 34 at 4:45. England-Scotland at Welford Road. You can watch it on BBC Two. There'll be full commentary on 5 Sports Extra with Adam Whitty.
And that France win against Italy earlier means that England have a seemingly annual showdown again with Les Bleus next week at Twickenham. They're heavy favourites against the Scots today to set that up, and the stats paint the picture of that. England have won the last 26 games against Scotland. They haven't beaten England since 1999. The aggregate score of the last 6 meetings is 346-22. John Mitchell has spoken of needing 2 teams to win the World Cup later this year, and perhaps this is closer to the second 15. 9 changes from the win at Ireland. Jade Sheckles gets her first start. Scotland have made 2 changes from a poor loss to Italy last week. Jade Conkle is in at 8, Katie Mattinson in at scrum half. Their aim to pull off one of the biggest shocks in women's rugby history today.
What do you think he wants to see beyond just his players winning the game this afternoon?
I would imagine strength and depth, the ability what they'll want to do is absolutely storm to the World Cup. What they've struggled with, they've been runners-up a host of times in the Women's World Cup, previously England women's team. They will hope, I think, to completely dismantle every team, have enough strength and depth to be able to beat whoever they face in the semi-final and the final along the way, if they get there. And I think after Ireland, England looked a little bit leggy and a little bit ropey last week in that first half. They had the fitness and the resilience to come through in the second half. I think probably an 80-minute performance from this team would be very handy indeed, given the fact that they had to rely on, I think, other things last week in order to beat Ireland. So perhaps not that they are expected to bulldoze Scotland, I think, today. So probably some other aspects of the game is what John Mitchell's looking for.
Thank you very much, Adam. Let me give you a couple of half-time scores in the Gallagher Premiership as well. Exeter 10, Bath 26, Harlequins 15, Sale 26, Saracens Gloucester is a 5:30 kickoff. Back to Goodison shortly for second half commentary. Everton 0, Manchester City 0. Just seen Peter Reid and some of his teammates from those great Everton teams that won 2 league titles in the mid-80s on the pitch at Goodison Park. Already today at the Emirates, Arsenal were beaten 2-1 by Lyon in the first leg of their Women's Champions League semi-final. Arsenal boss Renée Sleggers says her side just struggled to deal with Lyon's attack.
I think playing against Lyon with these, specifically these 3 forwards on the pitch, it's something that we haven't faced this season yet, and you have to experience it to be able to find the solution. And I think what was strong of the team was that we needed to settle in the game, and it took us some time, but then we did it and we found the solutions, and the courage and the belief started to grow, and the solutions on how we stop them. And of course we prepared for that. It's not that it was a surprise for us. We knew what we were going to face, and the players knew exactly that this was the threat we needed to stop. But I'm happy in the way we go into the game, and especially then the phase in the second half where we dominate. We know exactly what we're playing against next week, but the same will count for Lyon.
That's Renée Sleggers' teams on their way back out at Goodison. Ian.
Yes, they are. Tarkowski's just come out. We've had half-time. To mark that, mentioned the title-winning team, and also the 40th anniversary of the team that won the European Cup Winners' Cup. And Trevor Stephen, Peter Reid, Paul Bracewell, Derek Mountfield and Alan Harper came out onto the pitch. Now it's the modern-day Everton team. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any changes from the home team. So Pickford in goal, O'Brien, Tarkowski, Branthwaite, Mikolenko, Garner, Gay, Decore, Harrison, Broja and Njai. And here come Manchester City in their all-burgundy with Ortega in goal, Nunes, Diaz, Guardiol, O'Reilly, Gonzalez, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Savinho, De Bruyne and Marmouche. No alterations, it would seem, either from Pep Guardiola, Chris Sutton.
No, and look, that may be a little bit of a surprise, because I mean, this is a really important game for Manchester City. They may be happy to leave Goodison and scramble for a point. I get that, but that race for 5th place, I mean, it's well and truly on. And the only thing I'd say is I don't think this Manchester City team in the first half have played with the necessary urgency. They haven't played with the desperation of a club who really want the Champions League.
Well, they are looking to qualify for the Champions League for a 15th successive season. You have to go back to 2010-11 for the last time that they were involved, well, it was the Europa League, without any Champions League football. But they, in this second half, will be defending the Gladys Street end. That was late. Garner with a foul on Gonzalez. Simon Hooper, the referee, gives that free kick for the away team. So they're playing from left to right as we look, whereas Everton, who are the draw specialists in the top flight, they've drawn 14 so far this season. They are attacking the end where still a lot of the supporters are getting back to their seats after the half-time activities at Goodison Park on this Dry but breezy afternoon on Merseyside. And if Herr Chapman is listening, the rustle in the background was nothing to do with me, as he loves to listen to a rustle of a sweet packet on the Commentator's View podcast, but not guilty.
Who is the guilty party?
I'm a team player. I wouldn't say Gary Flintoff, our producer. I wouldn't do that. Free kick to Everton, 15 yards in from the left touch line. Manchester City provide quite a high line. A lot of the blue shirts though have gathered towards that far side. Harrison and Garner stand over the free kick. It is Garner right-footed. It's a diagonal ball. It's floated towards Tarkowski. He gets his head onto that. Running in is Branthwaite, and Ortega saves at the second attempt. The first was just to push it up in the air, and then he made a comfortable save. But Tarkowski once more becoming a bit of a nuisance, as De Bruyne has shown too much of that towards Ndiaye. And there's a turnover in play, and it's with Ndiaye to Everton. But Tarkowski once more causing problems. Garner now running infield. Ndiaye easily cut out by Gundogan. Loses it though. Ndiaye 25 yards out from goal, rolls it short behind him. Decore. Manchester City have everybody back behind the ball. Tarkowski passes the ball out wide to Harrison. Harrison waits, looks to go on the outside of O'Reilly, but the young man, he's got quite a presence. He's 6'4" and he was towering over Harrison, but Everton still have it. Here is Gay. Threads it through. Harrison runs onto it. First time cross. Ortega can't get there, and Dry stabs it goalwards. Couldn't get a connection. Decore drives it. Blocked by Diaz. Slice clearance by Gundogan, and Manchester City partially get the ball away 0-0.
It's a terrible misjudgment from Ortega. Cross from the right-hand side, and Jai just cannot get the necessary contact on it. There's a weak effort for him, and then the follow-up Decore. There was a block. I think it was it Diaz who blocked it, or Gvardiol down on the knees?
There's been a goal at West Ham. Aaron Paul.
What a goal this is from West Ham United, blistering on the counter-attack. Mohamed Kudus driving down the left-hand side, switching play beautifully to Jared Bowen, cutting inside on his left foot and burying in the bottom corner of Aaron Ramsdale's net. 47 gone, West Ham United 1, Southampton 0.
Mikolenko gets round the back, but he's offside. They could still be the worst team in Premier League history, Southampton. They're currently on 10 points, but they are then behind. Remember, Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0, but Palace are down to 10 men. Indeed, we'll get an update from Selhurst Park with Henry Moran.
We've only had 90 seconds of the second half, but already tempers are fraying. I think Palace were frustrated with that red card in added time for Chris Richards. And now we're seeing Kluivert getting involved with Munoz, and we've now seen another Palace booking. So it remains Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0, but a lively start to the second half.
Brentford 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 1 is still the scoreline elsewhere in the Premier League. Commentary to come at 5:30 after Sports Report. Aston Villa against Newcastle United. Tarkowski's gone down with an injury, hamstring.
Yeah. And he's asking,
straight away wants to come off.
Yeah, it's just long ball from Ortega, and Tarkowski, unlike him, misjudges the flight of the ball. Then he starts to try and sprint back, and he pulls up, and this is a blow for Everton. You mentioned his dominance at the back for Everton, but his dominance in the Manchester City box as well. He hit the post with a header, and then the other Everton chance, the big chance, was his little knockdown for Branthwaite, who headed, and Ortega made the save. So this is a big blow for David Moyes. They're going to miss their leader at the back.
Michael Keane is getting some final instructions as to replace Tarkowski. So whilst there is a stoppage in play, there is going to be a change. We will go to Brentford and Brighton and Hove Albion and John Southall.
Where it's Brentford 1, Brighton 1 in. We've played just 2 minutes of the second half, but a chance already for Brentford, and Bumo with the cross from the right-hand side. And there was a Sharda with the header with a glancing touch just wide of the left-hand post. Brentford 1, Brighton 1.
James Tarkowski, who last weekend made his 500th club appearance of his career, but straight away he knew, didn't he?
Yeah, you know when your hamstring goes. He's hobbling off. He's been brilliant for Everton. You know, when you think about this season, and Pickford in goal with the rocks in front of him, Tarkowski and Branthwaite, so important under Sean Dyche. And then he's just carried his form on under David Moyes. This is a blow.
And also, depending on the severity of the hamstring injury, you know, this might well be his final appearance at Goodison Park. And you think back to one of the most iconic goals that this stadium has seen. It'll be long remembered, that goal against Liverpool, won't it, just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, absolutely right. In the dying embers of that game, walloping one in, and the stadium erupted. And Michael Keane, experienced centre-half, comes on. Like for like.
His last Premier League appearance was back in January. It is his 250th Premier League appearance of his career for Michael Keane. So he is on for Tarkowski. It remains Everton 0, Manchester City 0, live on BBC Radio 5 Live on the World Service. And there's been another goal at Brentford. John Southall.
And Brentford lead Brighton by 2-1. It's Brian Mbeumo again on the right of the penalty area. Curled the ball into the bottom left-hand corner. 18th goal of the season. He's been the best player on the pitch. Brighton, though, gave the ball away in the build-up to the goal. Brentford 2, Brighton 1.
Broja was played in there, but Gvardiol quickly cut off that avenue to goal. But Gonzalez will tidy up and back towards Ortega. He was too quick and he was too strong for Amanda Broja.
He didn't have the pace there, Broja. I tell you what, though, Ian, I mean, this is as flat as I've seen a Manchester City team live. I cannot remember a City team who have been so passive. They've been insipid in this game. They really have done. I was expecting, OK, they've had a poor first half, come out and sort of pass with a greater purpose in the second half. It hasn't happened. When will Pep turn to his bench?
Well, Pep side need a bit of a pep up, because at the moment they're lacking a little bit of fizz. They're lacking intensity.
Yeah, well,
lacking a spark.
Yeah. Pep's team will be popping out of the Champions League places if they're not careful.
Certainly would have to go down as drop points from a Manchester City side at the being held comfortably by Everton. Indeed, Everton have probably had the greater moments actually at the...
Well, they have done. How many times over the years have you seen the teams when they've got a result against Manchester City, you know, they've had to have a bit of luck and the goalkeepers had to play well, and, you know, City missing chances. City haven't had a clear-cut chance in this game.
Bernardo Silva didn't keep the ball in play. The 5 goals actually that they scored against Crystal Palace took their season tally to over the century mark. It was 102 for a 12th consecutive season, over a century of goals, which is the longest run in top-flight history. Yet here, as you say, they've just looked so tame.
What have we seen? And it's not a surprise anymore, though, Ian, is it? Because we've seen, you know, Manchester City have other sort of false dawns this season. Bournemouth in the FA Cup, you know, supposed to be. Pep talked about their strong performance.
De Bruyne tried to roll it out towards Gundogan.
Marmoush is hurt now.
Yeah, he was caught by Michael Keane. The referee spotted it, played the advantage, as that was a foul by O'Reilly on Harrison, and the referee's going to show a yellow card to Michael Keane. He did let the game flow, but he was caught, was Marmoush, and it's actually the first yellow card of the match, 55 minutes in, and he's only been on the field a matter of moments, and Michael Keane has been booked.
Yeah, clumsy from Michael Keane. Do you know what, when I was coming to the game today, I got the train across and met a few Everton fans. There were some from Tampa Bay who had come over, wanted to see, you know, their team for the last time at Goodison. And then I met a gentleman outside the stadium who said he doesn't half miss tackles nowadays in football. You don't see, you know, full-blooded tackles anymore. And the game has changed like that, hasn't it?
Very much so. Free kick, long, from Harrison. Drops inside the penalty area. Branthwaite got his head onto it. Nobody could get on the end of that knockdown header, and it was picked up by Ortega.
It's a great header back across from Branthwaite. Branthwaite holds his arms up saying, come on, somebody just gamble off my knockdown.
Here is Gvardiol, who pushes the ball into the centre circle and then passes it towards Mateus Nunes. Bernardo Silva on this near side. De Bruyne is the one who makes the run in behind. Gay has gone with him, snapping at his heels. Then it goes back towards Bernardo Silva, leaves it for Mateus Nunes. A missed kick from De Bruyne, and that presents an opportunity for Mykolenko to clear 11 minutes into the second half. Sharp turn by Njai, then gives the ball away. And here is O'Reilly, just passing between Gundogan in front of Everton.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going anywhere. You know, no real runners in behind, albeit Everton are defending deep. Everything's in front of them.
Here is Broja, waits, passes it out to Harrison. Broja goes on ahead and looks for the return. Gvardiol, though, again there with his pace. Gvardiol was glided past Broja with ease, and then in fact there was a nudge from Broja, and it will go down as a free kick to Manchester City, 0-0.
City's best player, Gvardiol, by a country mile. Read that situation very well. I think we'll see Beto coming on very soon.
39,332 is the attendance inside Goodison Park this afternoon. They've got Ipswich to come on the 3rd of May, and then Southampton as the 2 remaining fixtures in this famous old ground. But there hasn't been too much to cheer about inside Goodison this afternoon as we approach the hour mark here on 5 Live. O'Reilly.
Do you know the biggest attendance? You should know stuff like that. The biggest attendance here at Goodison, you say 39,000 today.
You're only looking because you're on your phone on the internet.
No, but you should know stuff like this.
Oh.
You're not prepped.
Well, I didn't. No,
1948.
Yeah.
It's Liverpool, 18th of September, 78,299. Ian.
Are you 10 out with that as well?
That was just poor maths. I went to a village school, Ian.
I went to a village school, don't knock the villages. Gvardiol hits it out to this near side, and Mykolenko looks as if he's going to attack it and then drops his shoulder and lets it bounce out of play for a throw.
I'm afraid he's got to take Bernardo Silva off. It's literally like playing with a man down. He's been a great player, but he offers very little on that right-hand side.
Well,
he's got Doku, he's got Grealish on the bench. Surely they'd provide a greater threat.
Well, Everton are going to be making a change, and Beto is going to be coming on. So Munda Broja, in only his 11th appearance, still looking to score for Everton. Indeed, his last Premier League goal was October 2023. And Broja's taken a blow to the face, and it's a head injury, which is why Simon Hooper has had to stop play. This game is far from a classic. I don't think we'll be remembering our final trip to Goodison Park saying, oh, what a great game that was.
No, well, I've got one more here, Ian, in a couple of weeks. So this won't be my final game, so hopefully it'll be better, the one against Ipswich. I actually think Everton, look, I mean, as you said, it's not been a classic, but Manchester City don't even seem like they're trying to win the game. Everything is just pedestrian and slow, and they should be desperate at this stage of the season. I know they're not going for a title, but blimey, we all realise how important Champions League football is. It'll be, really weird to see Manchester City in the Europa, if that's the case.
Well, bearing in mind that Pep Guardiola was saying ahead of this game that he's been watching the Champions League this week, and it serves as extra motivation to make sure that his team are in it next season. Well, that extra motivation certainly hasn't fed down to his players on the evidence of what we've seen so far, an hour played. A bit insipid, 0-0. Here is Njai, who's been sharp, he's been lively throughout, links up now with Doucouré, and Njai runs at the Manchester City defence. Doucouré then he goes on this left-hand side. They've linked up well. Here is Doucouré now edge of the area, and Doucouré looks for a shooting opportunity and does shoot and gets a corner kick. It was going wide anyway, but Ortega didn't know that, and he had to make a one-handed save behind for a corner.
Yeah, he's going to crash into the side netting. Doucouré does well. He's trying to get inside in his stronger right foot. Takes a touch, tries to set himself up, and then he shapes to bend one into the far corner. Well, 17 yards out he is, shifts it onto his left foot, and the angle's fairly acute with the shift. Takes a couple of touches and hammers the ball, and Ortega takes no chances there. Gets a hand to it. It was going wide anyway.
Everton are the team, though, who are being the more productive of the two. 0-0. 61 minutes played, 5 live on the World Service. Corner kick in front of the Gladys Street end. On this near side that Ghana will take. The referee, though, was just telling him to wait. He spotted a little bit of pushing and shoving. Gvardiol and Keane, I think, inside that congested 6-yard area. So Ghana waits, takes 2 or 3 steps back, has to run up that slight embankment, and then it goes deep, and Ortega under pressure claims it off the head of Broja.
It's O'Brien with the first contact. O'Brien was actually trying to block Ortega.
Savinho picks up that loose ball, and he was just pulled back a little bit by Gay. It's going to result in a yellow card, and there is the yellow to the Everton midfielder. We'll go to John Southall at Brentford.
Brentford have a third, Brentford 3, Brighton 1. Really good goal on the counter, finished with Mbumo finding Wissa. The two of them again, took a big deflection. Wissa gets the third, Brentford 3, Brighton 1.
Crystal Palace, who are down to 10 men, still drawing 0-0 at home to Bournemouth. West Ham United still lead Southampton by a 1-0. Yellow card then shown to Gay. Free kick to Manchester City, 0-0, Chris Sutton.
Cynical from Gay. Savinho on the break there, just getting the other side of him, and Gay hauling him back. Yellow card deserved. Kevin De Bruyne, what, 35 yards out, Ian, would you say?
No, I wouldn't.
Would you not?
It's not 10 out, but it's under 30 yards out from goal if you look at the markings of the grass. So we're about 28 yards out from this free kick that De Bruyne is going to take. It's 0-0. It's right-footed. It's curling towards the far post, and it goes all the way out, despite the best efforts of a sliding Ruben Diaz for a goal kick.
De Bruyne waves his arms up in the air. Actually, wasn't far away from finding Diaz on the diagonal. Here we go. Everton. Maybe a surprise to many that Beto didn't start, but Broja, like I said, getting the nod once again. But Beto's been pretty decent under David Moyes, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Beto scored 8 goals, comes on, and he's got about 27 minutes to try and make an impression. 0-0. Let's get the team news from Villa Park. John Murray.
Well, Ollie Watkins is in to start for Villa, so is Asensio. Rashford is on the bench as Villa make 4 changes in all from PSG. So Mings and Maatsen also come in. Onana and Digne, like Rashford, on the bench. Pau Torres not involved at all. And Newcastle, you won't be surprised to hear, are unchanged. Same team for a 7th consecutive match.
As they look for what would be a 6th successive victory. They got that win against Crystal Palace in midweek that propelled them to 3rd in the table above Nottingham Forest, and they take on an Aston Villa side who are currently 7th, only a point behind Manchester City. So if City were to drop points here today, that would certainly suit both of those two teams. You'll be hearing commentary of with John Murray alongside Pat Nevin from 5:30. And the way Manchester City are going, they've got to be careful that Everton don't snatch a winner.
Well, you know, the question is how on earth are Manchester City going to snap out of this lack of urgency? They need a spark from somewhere. Normally that comes from the bench, but no activity just yet.
Here is Bernardo Silva. Pep Guardiola standing up in the technical area, barking out the orders. De Bruyne plays a short ball. Keane, though, gives it away, Keane. And now it's with Gundogan, and Gundogan shoots. The block comes in from Branthwaite. Up in the air it goes. De Bruyne with a shot. That's blocked as well, and then hammered away this time by Ghana. Beto challenges Ruben Diaz. And then it's with Mateus Nunes to play the ball around. The Everton supporters watching on. Bernardo Silva hits it up towards Marmoush. Keane attacks it and heads it away. Headed in field by Harrison. A carefully directed header for Gay to run onto, and now towards Njai. Beto looks onside. Oh no, offside.
He looked offside to me, just went a little bit early. We're in line there. So I think he'll do that more than Broja. He'll offer him behind more than Broja will. Just went a little bit too early. Good line from Manchester City. They just lack energy, don't they, in the middle of the park? Nico Gonzalez playing in that holding role, and ahead of him Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne. Here comes the ball outright again to Bernardo Silva, but he's not going to take Mikalenko on. He'll end up passing it. Goes back. You know, when you're in those wide areas, you need to try and commit your fullback at times, 1v1 situations.
But by and large, they've been one-paced, have Manchester City. As Gundogan, actually, as I say, that does accelerate and runs forward on the left-hand side and chips over the cross, and then Mikolenko carefully directs the header back to Pickford. Red card at Brentford, John Southwood.
Well, we think there is. Brentford 3, Brighton 1. Just gets worse for Brighton this. João Pedro was grappling with Nathan Collins, swung out his right arm, caught Collins. The referee has shown the red card, and VAR have completed the check, and Brighton are down to 10 men. Brentford 3, Brighton 1.
Second red card of the afternoon after Chris Richards was sent off for Crystal Palace at home to Bournemouth. That remains 0-0. Brentford are 3-1 up at the G-Tech. West Ham are still leading Southampton by a goal to 0. 0-0 here, 67 minutes played.
Yeah, we could do with a grapple, couldn't we, in this game, to bring it to life.
Here is De Bruyne linking up with Diaz, cut out though by Garner.
How many times has he given the ball away this afternoon, Kevin De Bruyne?
He's got another opportunity now, plays it short towards Núñez. You know, if you look back at their record, since beating Ipswich 6-0 in January, they've scored 2 goals in their previous 4 away games, and they've failed to score in their last 2. 10 years ago was the last time that they failed to score in 3 consecutive away games. But they're drawing a blank here at Goodison. Everton 0, Manchester City 0. It's live on BBC Radio 5 Live, the World Service, and the BBC Sounds app. Gundogan, Savinho with the cross. Marmoush heads it up in the air, didn't go anywhere near the goal, and Jai inside his penalty area is able to clear and look for the run of Beto. It will not go out of play. It will now, off a touch of Diaz. It's an Everton throw. They ask questions.
Yeah, they got a bit of an overlap there, Manchester City, and Savinho stabbed the ball up, but Marmoush, we spoke about him in the first half, how many touches, the lack of touches he had in the first half, hasn't really been involved in this second half. We often talk about Erling Haaland not really being involved in the build-up play, but Marmoush has had nothing really to feed on, has he? No real opportunities created for him.
No. I know that De Bruyne effort was blocked in the first half, but Pickford's only had 1 serious save to make all game. Here is Bernardo Silva. Garner slides in. Just pure commitment there from Garner. He wanted it. Throw from Bernardo Silva is taken with urgency for Manchester City. But Beto back to help out. Tackles. And Jai towards Beto. He's dispossessed by Gundogan. Robs him of the ball in the Everton half. Midway through the second half here on 5 Live. And it is still Everton 0. Manchester City 0. Let's get an update from West Ham. Aaron Paul.
West Ham 1, Southampton 0. The Hammers thought they bagged a second through Nicholas Füllkrug. Corner ball played in towards the back post. Füllkrug colliding with Aaron Ramsdale and just sending the ball into the back of the net. VAR didn't even need to check it. We all knew it was a foul. West Ham 1, Southampton 0.
Mentioned the commentary to come at Villa Park from 5:30 tomorrow. Ipswich against Arsenal at 2. As part of 5 Live's Premier League Sunday, live from midday. Leicester City, Liverpool at 4:30. There is that scenario that Liverpool could be crowned champions of the Premier League tomorrow. You'll hear it all unfold on BBC Radio 5 Live. Savinho, midway through the Everton half, 10, 12 yards infield from that left touchline, in front of the travelling support on that far side. Manchester City with Gvardiol inching his way forward, gets it back from Gundogan. Royal blue shirt to that Everton back line. Wait on the edge of the penalty area. Marmoush back towards Gundogan. It sits up and he hits it sweetly right-footed, but it was straight at Pickford, goalless.
Good link-up play, actually. Gundogan off the left-hand side, plays the ball into Marmoush, and then follows his run. And Marmoush sets the ball back, takes a good touch as Gundogan and laces the ball. Lovely strike, but straight at Jordan Pickford.
The fixtures either side of that FA Cup semi-final next weekend. Aston Villa away on Tuesday and Wolves at home on the 2nd of May as Beto makes a surging run into the left-hand side of the penalty area. Beto shoots low, strikes the heels of Diaz, who turns and clears long for Manchester City. And Branthwaite has to head the ball up in the air. Keane does well to beat De Bruyne in the air. Gundogan runs onto it now. All of a sudden the game is livening up. 19 minutes remain. Savinho in a central area plays it short. Gundogan Tries to wriggle away from the challenge of Gay. Here is De Bruyne. There's no width because Bernardo Silva has gone central. So it's Matheus Nunes who actually provides the width on this near side, but Mykolenko run that quite easily and picks himself off the floor and then charges forward and then hits the ball out towards Doucouré. Far side the right. Doucouré infield. Harrison now, edge of the area. Plays it towards Njai, right-footed, goes for the curler and puts it wide. Goal kick, 0-0.
Well, Nunes not going to win a bravery award for that challenge, going in 50-50 with Mykolenko. You've said a couple of times, Everton players seem to very basic. They want to win these challenges more. They've been far more aggressive than Manchester City. Njai just, and the ball did break to him. He's fed the ball. Way off target with his right-footed effort. Wide of Ortega's left-hand post.
Everton, they've been in the top flight since 1954-55. You think that they've flirted with relegation the last 3 seasons. This finish has been a welcome relief since David Moyes came on board. Here is Marmoush, edge of the area. It falls towards Savinho. Pickford with a save. Straight, well, wasn't quite straight at him. He had to move a little bit to his right, but he was still alert enough. And all of a sudden, after being hardly tested at all, he's been tested twice in a matter of minutes.
It's really good from Marmoush. Picks the ball up just inside the Everton half. Well, the ball's fed to him, sorry, near the Everton box. And he drives at Branthwaite and then feeds a little ball out to Savinho. And it's a right-footed effort and a smart save from Jordan Pickford.
But Everton are a club who are looking up rather than looking down. As the ball is knocked in towards Doucouré, gathered by Ortega. And certainly David Moyes in that interview is talking about new opportunity, new beginnings. There is a sense of optimism here at Everton, which probably hasn't been the case in recent years.
I think so, but I mean, my worry for David Moyes, this may sound ridiculous, Ian, is that is he in danger of overachieving? You know, when you think about when he came in, the situation he took over, there'll be a great deal of optimism next season moving into the new stadium, but it's a big summer for David Moyes, isn't it? In terms of recruitment, I think they've got 5 loanees in at this moment in time.
And Doucouré, who's just been caught offside, he wants a new contract. That was quite clear with his goal-scoring celebration at Forest last week.
Gana Gay's getting on a bit, isn't he?
Here is De Bruyne. Of course, he's moving on to pastures new. We'll no longer be seeing him next season in the Premier League. Still, the deadlock waits to be broken here at Goodison Park with just over 15 minutes remaining. De Bruyne rolls the ball into the area, plays it in low. One stride forward to clear it away by Keane. Ushers that defence out. Ball kept in play far side, front of that travelling support. We've got 16 minutes remaining here on 5 Live. Gvardiol to Diaz, inside the centre circle. Doucouré runs towards him. Bernardo Silva on this near side, back towards Gvardiol. Lets it come across his body. Uses that left foot as a result to pass the ball forward to De Bruyne. Here is Gundogan. Short ball towards O'Reilly. De Bruyne. But again, they're playing in front of Everton at this stage. Diaz now hits the ball forward. Savinho never going to get the better of either Keane or O'Brien. O'Reilly sweeps over the cross and Branthwaite unruffled at the back with a cushion header back towards his goalkeeper Pickford. 0-0.
Yeah, as cool as you like. It's interesting, you say they're never going to win the header, Savinho against O'Brien. That's what Manchester City are resorting to. Hitting diagonal balls in. It's a really, really strange performance from this City team, but I'm surprised Pep hasn't rung the changes earlier. Looks like he is now.
Well, there's certainly activity on the Everton bench. I can see the head of Dwight McNeil, who has been a substitute in the last 2 after missing 18 games with a knee injury. So he'll be coming on. Kovacic is going to be coming on for Manchester City as Marmoush loses out to Mykolenko. His back pass to Pickford. One touch takes it across the 6-yard area and a right-footed clearance by the England international. Might be a double change actually for Everton. Is that Alcaraz who's going to be coming on? It's going to be Doku certainly for Manchester City. So we're going to see maybe a double change from both sides here, Chris. As Gonzalez just touches the ball back. Bernardo Silva. Certainly Doku will provide a little bit of energy into this Manchester City side. As it's Gonzalez midway through the Everton half at a walking pace. Bernardo Silva. It is going to be Alcaraz, incidentally, who's going to be coming on for the home team, on loan from Flamengo. Brentford lead the 10 men of Brighton and Hove Albion by 3-1. West Ham United lead relegated Southampton 1-0. What's the latest at Selhurst Park? Henry Moran.
So little is happening, it's untrue. 75 minutes gone. Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0. Perhaps significantly, Eberechi Eze had taken off at half-time with next weekend's FA Cup semi-final in mind. Palace 0, Bournemouth 0.
Thank you, Henry. Here is Gonzalez. He's going to be coming off in a moment. He's going to be replaced by Kovacic. He passes the ball through to De Bruyne. Low ball in, takes a deflection off the head of Mikalenko, who's gone down. It's a head injury. I think the referee's got to stop play anyway. And this will give an opportunity for the raft of substitutions to be coming on. So Kovacic will replace Gonzalez. Doku will replace Savinho. And whilst those changes happen, we will go to West Ham. Aaron Paul.
West Ham 1, Southampton 0. Huge chance for the visitors. The ball bobbling around the West Ham area and then dropping to Jack Stevens on the edge. On the half volley, he hit a sidewinder, beaten away low down by Alphonse Areola. And let me tell you something, the natives are very, very restless round here. West Ham 1, Southampton 0.
Might well be a triple change for Everton.
I cannot believe that Pep has taken Savinho off and not Bernardo Silva. I'm astonished with that. I mean, Bernardo Silva has offered nothing this afternoon. He has been a great player in the past. I know that, but doesn't have the legs to go past people anymore. Doesn't have that athleticism. And Savinho, who's actually, I'm not saying he's had a great game, but he's caused far more of a threat than Bernardo Silva has done. Bernardo Silva will probably end up scoring the winner now, Ian. I've said that, but
EVERTON is coming on to replace Jack Harrison. Alcaraz is coming on to replace Iliman and Jai. And then Dwight McNeil is going to be Gay, the other player who's going to be going off. So they're the three changes that have been made by David Moyes with 11 minutes remaining. If there's anything you wish to challenge Chris Sutton on, you can of course give him a call on 606. It'll be coming up after the commentary of Aston Villa Newcastle, 08085909693. I'm tempted to call him myself, as if to say what a waste of a Cadbury's cream egg that was that I brought. You've not even touched it.
Well, not yet. I need a bit of energy for later. Always need energy when you're sitting in a studio with Robbie Savage.
That's a fair point, well made. 11 minutes remaining, 0-0, 5 live.
Yeah, Alcaraz has gone out to the left-hand side, straight swap with Njai Irabunam just sitting in that midfield role, and Dwight McNeil, he's got a hell of a left foot, playing on the right-hand side. I know I'd like to come inside, and Doku straight into the action for Manchester City.
And Doku carries it forward on that left-hand side and then skips away from one challenge towards Kovacic. He plays it then towards Gundogan. We'll get you as much live reaction as we can before that commentary at Villa at 5:30 into Sports Report. Here is Bernardo Silva running on this near side, the right, attacking the park end of the ground here at Goodison Park. 10 minutes remain of normal time. Everton 0, Manchester City 0. Bernardo Silva, Mikalenko waits, watching the ball intently. And then passes the ball infield. Mateus Nunes, diagonal ball with his back to goal is De Bruyne. Back out it goes towards Bernardo Silva. Sends in a left-footed cross and Pickford lets it go all the way through and out for a goal kick. David Moyes has beaten Manchester City more than any other top six side with 15 wins from 42 attempts. But he's actually been winless in his last 15 Premier League games against Manchester City. He's only drawn 2 of those. This is going to be a rare opportunity for him to pick up a point, but that's the least that Everton would deserve today.
Yeah, I think they've certainly edged this game. You've got a feeling there could be a twist in this yet, though, Ian.
Oh, now who's being mystic? As we will go to Brentford and John Southall.
Where Brentford lead Brighton by 3-1. Could have been 4. Dunk gave the ball away to Sharda on the right-hand side. His shot into the side netting. Fabian Hertzler has just made a couple of changes, taking off Belieber with chance from the away end of you don't know what you're doing. Tony Bloom sitting in amongst them today. Brentford 3, Brighton 1.
Yes, Tony Bloom, the chairman owner of Brighton and Hove Albion, in and amongst the away support. They were meeting up in a pub ahead of the game with about 100 Brighton fans, and they walk to the ground. Don't go into the director's box at Brentford. Tony Bloom, well, not many of them do. Certainly Tony Bloom doesn't. Pickford there just picked up a bit of a knock, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a through ball from Doku, who's actually injected a bit of energy into this Manchester City team off the left-hand side, slid the ball through to Mamouche, but Pickford read where the ball was heading and came and gathered, got caught on the follow-through.
Oh, that caused a bit of uncertainty for Michael Keane. Hasn't dealt with it. Mamouche is in. Mamouche stabs it down into the ground and it goes wide. Pickford did just enough.
That
should Mamouche have done better?
Yeah, he should have done. That was the chance. Used his body brilliantly, Mamouche. Just a long, hopeful ball. Bit of an up and under the ball. Keane allows the ball to bounce. Mamouche uses his body well, but Pickford gets his timing right. Mamouche chokes the ball into the floor. If he lifts that over Pickford, Manchester City would be in the lead, but as I said, choked his shot into the ground.
In comes the corner from the left-hand side. Keane this time more commanding, heads it away. Beto just couldn't prod it clear of Mateus Nunes. Out towards De Bruyne, low ball in, swept clear by O'Brien first time. Manchester City now with Doku. 7 minutes remain of normal time, 0-0. O'Brien to Kovacic. Finds Mateus Nunes, he goes square. Gundogan was under pressure, had to knock it all the way back to Ruben Dias. And the Everton players push on out. Back then to Ortega. Ortega's ball downfield. Mykolenko easily controls it and then passes the ball to Alcaraz. Everton run forward. Mykolenko has continued that run. Now towards Doucouré, but allows too much of it for Ruben Dias to slide across, and Bernardo Silva keeps it in play midway through the Everton half. Manchester City, though, are in danger of dropping points for Champions League qualification. Vital to a top 5 finish. Aston Villa, Newcastle, where Watkins starts for the home side. John Murray and Pat Nevin will bring you commentary. Here is Marmouche. Wriggles clear of Keane. Then passes the ball to Doku. Doku. Back it goes towards Kovacic. Square ball. Gundogan just outside the D. Mateus Nunes forward. Bernardo Silva level with the penalty area. Right corner of the box now. He wants Mateus Nunes to stay where he is, and it's his ball in, and it's put in by O'Reilly. And Manchester City with 6 minutes remaining. And Nico O'Reilly, in a rich vein of form, has probably backed a winner for Manchester City as they look to try and consolidate a Champions League qualification place, rubbing the ball in from close range. 1-0 to Manchester City.
Well, blimey, O'Reilly, you didn't see this coming. Fullback to fullback, though, wasn't it? Nunes, Bernardo Silva stood on the ball and was telling Nunes, you need to overlap, and eventually he did do, and he fires the ball across. O'Reilly gets in across Michael Keane, who hasn't covered himself in glory since coming on for Tarkowski, gets the run on him and guides the ball in from 4 yards. This would be an enormous 3 points for Manchester City. You've got to say, Ian, they don't deserve it.
No, they don't deserve it, and it is harsh on the home side, but it just seemed that Michael Keane didn't seem to sense the danger.
Absolutely. He's looked hesitant, hasn't he, since he's come on. You mentioned Tarkowski's influence. Not easy coming on as a sub. But no, he's been off it, hasn't he?
There's been another goal at Brentford. John Southall.
This is not over yet. Brentford 3, Brighton 2. Karamatoma on as a substitute has just rolled the ball into the bottom right-hand corner from the left of the penalty area. So 10 men Brighton still in it. Brentford 3, Brighton 2.
Irabunum has just been booked by referee Simon Hooper. The Manchester City supporters are the ones making all the noise as they celebrate over on that far side of the field. And
first time we've heard them, really, isn't it? I think they've been pretty bored by their team's performance, and now we hear them making a noise. Doku's been good, though, hasn't he? Such a surprise that he wasn't brought on earlier.
Well, now they're going to make another change. Emmanuel Akanji, who's missed the last 11 games, he's been out with a hip problem since they played Real Madrid in the Champions League in February. He waits to come on for Manchester City. 4 minutes remaining. And it is the away team who lead 1-0 to extend that sequence of, well, what would be 17 games undefeated against Everton, since Everton won 4-0 here in 2017. But they've made hard work of it, Manchester City.
Oh, they have done. In all honesty, it's been a pretty dull affair, hasn't it? And you just sense that, you know, if any team was going to nick it, it's going to be Everton. Although they've not really worked Ortega, had the better opportunities. I did say, and I had a feeling.
You did?
Feeling in the water. And Manchester City, huge 3 points this would be.
Here's Marmoush. That was a turn into the penalty area. Marmoush all of a sudden falls, and it's picked up before it could reach Bernardo Silva by Pickford. All it needed there was the finish.
Turned well, Michael Keane. He cannot cope with Marmoush. Marmoush, I think, targeting Keane.
Manchester City substitution.
We mentioned about his last Premier League appearance being back in January, and he said the word uncertain. He's been hesitant. He's looked rusty. He's actually been, as De Bruyne is coming off, and what a nice moment this is from some of the Everton supporters giving Kevin De Bruyne a nice ovation, led of course by Pep Guardiola down below, but an appreciation of what Kevin De Bruyne has been to the English game.
Absolutely classy from the Everton fans. I mean, we're going to miss him, aren't we? I mean, let's get it right in. He's not the player which he once was, but you know what he's given to the Premier League and this Manchester City team. He's been sensational.
Under 2 minutes remain, and Manchester City are 1-0 up as the ball is hit long by Jordan Pickford downfield. Akanji will beat Irabunim in the air. Garner's header, Beto's touch was a heavy one. Akanji coming back from an offside position actually was Beto. That'll be a free kick to Manchester City, who lead 1-0.
I wondered how Manchester City would shape up, whether they'd put Akanji into the, make it a back three, but he's gone into that midfield area alongside Kovacic, just to stiffen that Manchester City midfield up. And if Everton do try and go direct late on, then he's got the size, hasn't he, to deal with it, Akanji.
I'll give you the how the top five will look as Doku runs forward on that left-hand side, and O'Brien clears the ball away. Newcastle going into that Aston Villa game third on 59 points. Manchester City moving to 58, and Nottingham Forest dropped to 5th on 57, and Forest will be 3 points clear of Chelsea and Aston Villa.
Yeah, you've got Forest finishing outside of the Champions League, haven't you? Big call.
What do you think?
I think my team will get there.
Here is Marmoush. Doku runs on the overlap to the left-hand side, wins a corner.
Not happy, are they? Jordan Pickford, they thought Doku, the dynamic Doku, had just ran the ball out there over the line, but it's a corner to Manchester City, and guess what? They're not in a hurry.
What was interesting is that referee Simon Hooper, as we're 5 minutes into added on time, was asking his assistant referee to make the call, who's got to look from the right-hand side to the left-hand side of the penalty area. And Jordan Pickford, if he's not careful, is going to talk him into the book. In fact, there is the yellow card from referee Simon Hooper to Jordan Pickford for a bit of dissent that was clearly shown towards the match official. But Manchester City take the corner short. So 5 minutes of added on time here on BBC Radio 5 Live in the World Service. Everton 0, Manchester City 1. Brentford 3, Brighton 2. Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0. West Ham 1, Southampton 0. Doku. Certainly he's brightened things up for Manchester City since his introduction. Here is Akanji. And if anything at the moment, Manchester City now, since they've taken the lead, look like they might be the ones more likely to score the next goal in the game. Bernardo Silva down towards the corner flag. Mateus Nunes. Akanji a little bit off balance. Beto slides into the challenge, but Diaz gets there first and it falls to the feet of Doku. In it goes now towards Gundogan. Pulls it back. Kovacic on the slide. Buries it first time, right-footed. Finds the bottom left-hand corner. They look to strengthen their place in the top 5. I'm going to say the scoreline is harsh on the home team. Everton 0, Manchester City 2.
Mamouche does brilliantly. The ball's popped in from Doku to him. He's 8 yards out, back to goal. And he's thinking of getting a shot off. Branthwaite covers that, and Mamouche just lays the ball back to Kovacic, who strides onto the ball. He actually slips as he's hitting it, but drills his shot right-footed past Pickford into the far corner. It's a tremendous strike from Kovacic. And 2-0, 3 points for Manchester City, a crucial 3 points in this race for the Champions League.
And Mateo Kovacic, the substitute, right-footed, found the bottom left-hand corner, his 7th goal of the season. So those 2 goals have sent a lot of the Everton supporters now heading towards the exits. And we mentioned about all of a sudden Manchester City more likely to score the 2nd goal in the game. They might even add another one now in injury time. Still leading by 2 goals to 0. Marmouche is away from Alcaraz. Marmouche has support from Bernardo Silva. And then the ball is passed back. And here is Gundogan to Mateus Nunes. They seem to have got stronger with the goal.
They're playing with that authority, which we've come to expect from Manchester City, popping the ball around now at will, a bit of pace to the passing. The last 15 minutes, Doku's added some urgency, hasn't he? Mamouche, we've seen him become more prominent. I've got to say that substitution Tarkowski going off has made a massive difference to the Everton back line.
Yes,
coming on.
That injury with the hamstring problem was a huge blow to the home team. 90 seconds remaining. Manchester City, it'll be 11 points from a possible 15. Just starting to pick up form in terms of results at the right time. Even if the performance for large parts of this game haven't been necessarily what you'd necessarily be accustomed to when you think of a Pep Guardiola team. There's been a late goal at West Ham, Aaron Paul.
Pandemonium in the away end. Southampton look like they're going to bag themselves a point, and the goals come from Leslie Ugachukwu, who swung a left boot on the volley. The ball just bobbing around the West Ham area. Nothing the goalkeeper Alphonse Areola can do. And you know what? They really, really deserve this. West Ham 1, Southampton 1.
That would take them to 11 points to match the tally of Derby County.
I know a former Derby County captain who will be vomiting at this time.
Do you think he might mention it in 6:06?
No, I think he'll be trying to avoid it.
The last 30 seconds remaining. 6:06 with
08085 909 693. Please call in, Southampton fans.
That'll be after the commentary that's coming up after Sports Report of Aston Villa against Newcastle United. Because Manchester City, for large parts, didn't look like they were going to get the 3 points here today, but that they have. And that will just ramp up the pressure on those competing teams. It's 3 from 5 to join Liverpool and Arsenal for qualification from the Premier League for next season's Europe Elite competition. Newcastle, Forest, Manchester City, Chelsea and Villa. As the shot is hit on the half volley by Mykolenko, headed away by the Manchester City side. And by my watch, the 5 minutes are up as Alcaraz will pass the ball out wide, takes the deflection, and it will go out for a throw. And that should be that, and indeed the managers know it, because Pep Guardiola and David Moyes have a handshake, they have an embrace, and there is the final whistle. And Manchester City have beaten Everton by 2-0. Chris Sutton.
Yeah, well, it didn't matter about the performance. Manchester City didn't play well. It's all about that race for the Champions League spot. Got over the line. Late goals from O'Reilly and then Kovacic. Got to say, didn't see it coming. Everton will feel they deserve something from this game. But that's a massive 3 points for Pep Guardiola and Manchester City.
So those goals from O'Reilly after 84 minutes and then Kovacic in the 92nd minute have given Manchester City 3 valuable points. Finished then at Goodison Park, Everton 0, Manchester City 2.
I just wonder, Chris, whether we saw something about Manchester City's confidence levels there, because they were offering so little at 0-0. As soon as they scored, different team.
Yeah, I think so. And I thought Doku livened the game up a little bit for them, gave them a bit of zest, a bit of energy off that left-hand side. And Everton were comfortable. Mentioned in commentary, Tarkowski going off. I think that disrupted their back line. Michael Keane coming on, didn't cover himself in glory. And then they just worked a good opening on that right-hand side. Bernardo Silva was screaming for Nunes to overlap him. He did put a good ball in, and Keane was caught cold again. O'Reilly getting across him at the near post, popping it in, and then they saw the game through pretty comfortably, Steve, as you've mentioned, and maybe got a bit of confidence from that, started moving the ball quicker, and the second goal was really well worked. Doku, left-hand side, and Mamouche, really unselfish centre-forward play, could have tried to get a shot off through Branthwaite's legs, didn't do, set the ball back to Kovacic, who ran onto it and popped it into the corner, and look, I suppose at this stage of the season it's all about results. Manchester City were under pressure going into this game. I didn't really see the urgency in their performance for long parts of this game, but however they got there, they did do 3 points, and Pep Guardiola will be delighted with that.
Just seen Pep Guardiola down there on the pitch having a good chat with Jack Harrison, who is one of the many young players that City have let go over recent years. What do you think of Nico O'Reilly? Does he look like someone who's good enough, as he's pushed towards the fans there, to be a big part of them next season?
Yeah, well, he's he's in the team by right. He's got his opportunity, and he looks to be a really good all-rounder. You have to be an intelligent player to play in this Manchester City team. Saw him often in the game drift into that midfield role, the inverted role, which we see Manchester City play with. That tells you everything you need to know that Pep trusts him to handle the ball. But he played Harrison pretty well in those 1v1 duels, and then got himself in the box and popped up with a winner. So quite the afternoon for him. But he looks to be real quality player. Yes.
Everton just shrugged this one off, don't they? They've been brilliant of late.
Yeah, I think so, and I think David Moyes will come out after the game and suggest his team probably deserved a point from the game. I wouldn't argue with that. Tarkowski hit the post. They really missed him when he went off. Second half wasn't much of a contest, and they didn't really work Ortega as much as they would have liked throughout the whole game. But all things being equal, it was job done a long time ago for David Moyes. When he came in, it was about keeping the club up. He's done that comfortably, and he'll have one eye on next season, but he'll want to finish this season strongly and try and carry that momentum on.
Yeah, great stuff, Chris. Thank you. That's Chris Sutton at Goodison Park. You'll hear much more from him on 6:06 once we are done with that huge commentary at 5:30. Aston Villa versus Newcastle. Forget that for a sec. There's been another goal in the Premier League. It's a late one at Brentford. John Southall.
And it's all over now, Steve. Brentford 4, Brighton 2. Cross from the right-hand side, and there was Norgard with the header to plant it into the bottom left-hand corner. There's just a little bit of afters going on here in the middle of the field, pushing and shoving between the two sets of players. This has been bubbling along in the last 10 minutes of the game, but I think there's a general sense of relief around this stadium, because once Brighton went down to 10 men, they then were the better side. But that Norgard goal, surely enough for Brentford. Brentford 4, 10 men Brighton 2.
Bit of spice there, very little seasoning at Selhurst today, Henry Moran.
Full time, Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0, the most inevitable of 0-0s. Bournemouth unable to take advantage of playing against 10 men for the whole second half. Chris Richards' 2 yellows threatened to liven things up, and the second half was arguably even quieter than the first. The host didn't register a single shot on target. Bournemouth barely tested Henderson in the Palace goal. Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0.
Bournemouth and Anthony Areola probably be quite frustrated with that in the end, playing against 10 men, and also it means that they're only a point above Fulham in 8th, and Fulham have a game in hand now.
I think certainly the happier of the two sides will be Crystal Palace at the end of all that. Their fans were pretty jubilant come the end of the game. Their hopes really in terms of European qualification had gone. All eyes on next weekend and that FA Cup semi-final. It was quite telling, I think, that we saw the key players being taken off. Eze, Mateta, Wharton all being withdrawn. Rather tells a story in terms of where Palace's priorities lie.
Weren't expecting a follow-up there, Henry, were you, on that game?
Well, I have to be honest, I wasn't, but there we go. You know, it is the season of giving, and I am delighted to receive that little gift from you.
Well, Southampton have received another Premier League point, Aaron Paul.
Absolutely. West Ham 1, Southampton 1. A late door strike from Leslie Ugachukwu grabs Southampton their point there, and it's thoroughly deserved. Jared Bowen broke the deadlock after a tepid first half, striking on the counter following good work from Kudus off the left, but West Ham just could not build on it, and Sulemana's strike that hit the woodwork was a warning. Southampton pushed and always looked like they had something about them throughout and were rewarded for their efforts. Carl Walker-Peters in the area on the right hand side, popping across into the box. It was deflected up into the air, fell to the edge of the box, and there was Ugachukwu to smash the ball. It was the only thing he could really do. Sorry, there's a football team in front of me having a photo, but yeah, there was Ugachukwu on his left foot. Great shot. And nothing Areola could do to keep it out. He had a strong hand to it, but yeah, it just trickled past him and into the back of the net. Cue jubilant celebrations to my right in the away end, but massive boos at full time. Steve, 6 without a win now for Graham Potter's Hammers, and you know what? The home faithful, that they voted with their feet. By 82 minutes, you've got to say 35% of this stadium was empty. You could make out the patterning on the seats of the stand opposite me, and West Ham fans just waiting and willing for this season to end. West Ham 1, Southampton 1 is how it finished.
Still playing at Brentford. We'll let you know with John Southall when the full-time whistle goes. Other scores for you. Let's go into Scotland, where lots could happen today. Not too much has, but a couple of significant things. Firstly, Scottish Championship. Hamilton are relegated subject to an appeal. They were deducted 15 points 48 hours ago. They have drawn 0-0 with Queen's Park this afternoon. They are 7 points below Airdrieonians with just 2 games to go. As I say, with the asterisk, Airdrieonians were beaten 1-0 at home by Morton this afternoon. That means they are 6 points behind Queen's Park, who had that 0-0 draw at Hamilton. So Queen's Park staying up as it stands. They may still need 1 more point. At the top of the league, Falkirk could have been 6 points clear with 2 games to go. They were leading Wraith Rovers by 1-0 in stoppage time. In the end, it's finished Falkirk 1, Wraith Rovers 3. So that's still alive. Falkirk 3 points clear of Livingston with 2 games to go. The other game finished Dunfermline 0, Partick Thistle 0. In Scottish League 1, we already know Arbroath are going up as champions, as so often happens after a big day like that. They've lost and lost heavily. 5-1 to Annan, who are second bottom on 36 points. They are a point behind Inverness, who drew 1-1 at Stenhousemuir, the other side of the relegation playoff place. Dumbarton already down, drew 2-2 this afternoon at Montrose. Other scores, Kelty Hearts 1, Queen of the South 3, and Cove Rangers 1, Alloa 1. In Scottish League 2, Bonnyrigg Rose this afternoon, 2-0 winners. Big win for them against Forfar because they may still yet stay up. Forfar Athletic are 4 points above them now with 2 games to go. Finished Stranraer 2, Edinburgh City 0. Forfar Athletic 0, Bonnyrigg Rose 2. Spartans 2, Clyde 0. Up at the top of the league, Peterhead could have been promoted as champions this afternoon. Instead, they lost 4-0 at Elgin. East Fife beat Stirling by 2-0. So 1 point separates Peterhead from East Fife at the top of the league. 2 games to go. They play each other next. Full time now at Brentford, John Southall.
Actually, Steve, it's Brentford 4, Brighton 2. We've had a fairly nasty clash of heads. One of them is Van Heck. I can't quite see who the Brentford player down is at the moment. The physio is just in front of me there. So I think we're going to be playing another couple of minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes here. But you can safely say I think that Brentford are going to win this one. They lead Brighton by 4-2.
Let's check back in then at the World Snooker Championship. Jamie Broughton.
And we're watching the 2010 champion Neil Robertson in real trouble in his opening match. He's taking on Chris Wakeling, who's never won a match here at the Crucible. Wakeling leads, though, 5-1. He's knocked in breaks of 108, 62 and 52. Robertson needs to get going soon. On the other table this afternoon, the 3-time champion Mark Williams is taking on the Chinese star Wu Yize. Williams leads by 3 frames to 2, but Yize is playing really well. He's knocked in a break of 120. 10 is the target to reach the second round.
2 more commentaries on 5 Live's Premier League Sunday tomorrow. Ipswich Arsenal at 2 o'clock. If Arsenal lose at Portman Road, Liverpool can win the title when they take on Leicester at the King Power at 4:30. Still to come, we're off to Villa Park for Aston Villa versus Newcastle United in full. That's after Sports Report, which is next.
Imagine you're running to catch the last train, but it leaves in 5 minutes. And you're lost, and you don't have a phone, and everyone only speaks Mandarin. Goodbye, comfort zone. Race Across the World is back. Starts Wednesday on BBC iPlayer.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Crossman. You're listening to BBC Radio 5 Live at just after 5 o'clock, and this is Sports Report. The headlines this Saturday tea time. Manchester City score twice late on to win at Goodison.
In it goes now towards Gundogan, pulls it back, Kovacic on the slide, buries it first time, right-footed, finds the bottom left-hand corner. Everton 0, Manchester City 2.
Still playing at Brentford Brighton, John Southall.
Where Brentford lead Brighton by 4-2, 1-1 at half-time. The second goal from Mbeumo. Wiese made it 3-1. João Pedro was then sent off for Brighton. Matoma 3-2. Norgard with the late one. Surely has sealed it. A nasty clash of heads. Still not playing. And we've got a couple of minutes of added time left. Brentford 4, Brighton 2.
Southampton score an injury time equaliser to earn a point at West Ham. Crystal Palace have Chris Richards sent off as they draw 0-0 with Bournemouth. Aston Villa Newcastle kicks off at 5:30. John Murray.
Unai Emery likens the energy here at Villa Park on Tuesday to a nuclear power plant, and he wants them to pump up the volume again for this one. Watkins and Asensio start. Rashford's only on the bench. Newcastle 6 wins in a row, unchanged.
Aberdeen needed extra time to see off 9-man Hearts and reach the final of the Scottish Cup. Arsenal are beaten 2-1 by Lyon in the first leg of their Women's Champions League semi-final. In the WSL, Manchester United stay third after being held to a goalless draw at West Ham. Liverpool beat Brighton 2-1. There are wins for Bath and Sale in Rugby Union's Premiership. In Super League, it finished Lee 18, Warrington 14. Reports and reaction then from the day's top stories to come before we head to Villa Park at 5:30. I will also give you all of today's football results, starting with the full-time scores in the Premier League. It finished Everton 0, Manchester City 2, Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0, West Ham 1, Southampton 1, and it's just finished at Brentford. John Southall.
Yep, still actually playing, Steve, where it's Brentford 4, Brighton 2, and the reason that this one hasn't finished is a really nasty injury, it looks, to Jan-Paul Van Hecker. It was a clash of heads with Konak. They both went down. Konak has got up and he's just groggily gone off the pitch, but Van Hecker is still down. He did sit up at one point. He's now receiving oxygen and is about to be put onto a stretcher very gingerly. He's been put onto that stretcher now, so we hope he is okay, and he'll be carried off the pitch in a moment's time. But yeah, that is the reason why we're still playing, and Brentford lead by 4-2.
OK, let's take you back to Goodison Park then. Manchester City 2-0 winners at Everton. Absolutely huge for their Champions League hopes, Ian Dennis.
Yes, a valuable 3 points for Manchester City, but harsh on the home side, who I thought deserved at least a draw. The champions, for large parts, lacked intensity and creativity. Although after O'Reilly rammed home their first goal with just 6 minutes left, they did finish with a degree of confidence, and Kovacic, on the stretch, scored a second in injury time after Gundogan's layoff. Tarkowski's header hit a post in the first half for the home side, but his departure 7 minutes after half-time through injury was costly as his presence was sorely missed. So Manchester City move 4 points clear as they seek a 15th consecutive season of Champions League football.
Match of the day tonight, 10:30 BBC One. Gary Lineker, Martin Keown and Dion Dublin. Afternoon, Dion.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Yes, very good. That's massive for Manchester City, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And were they lucky? Maybe slightly. They didn't play very, very well. Everton were very positive as always, being at home. But O'Reilly getting them started, and Kovacic coming off the bench and just sealing it. Really, towards the end, it was just taking your chances and creating as many chances as you possibly can, and they did that, and they just got over the line. It wasn't a great game. There hasn't been a great game yet, Steve, today.
You didn't have to watch Palace Bournemouth, did you, in the green room? That wasn't one that you had to be across.
That was my main game today, yes.
Was it?
Yes.
Well, at least you didn't have to be there, Henry Moran.
To use a seasonal analogy, if some games feel as precious and valuable as a Fabergé egg, this was the equivalent of something dropped and cracked on the pavement. And as insipid a first half as you can imagine. It perked up when Palace were reduced to 10 in added time. Richards receiving a second yellow. Surely the impetus needed for Bournemouth, well, not a bit of it. A second 45 as passive as the first. Understandably, all eyes for Palace on next weekend's FA Cup semi-final, hence Eze Mateta and Wharton being withdrawn. For Bournemouth, a big chance missed in their quest for European football, and it's now one win in 8. First on Match of the Day tonight, you must be Yogi.
Oh, Henry. It's sort of a semi-serious Palace question here, Dion. You've played in an FA Cup final.
I have.
They have this huge game, the semi-final at Wembley coming up, and they've really dropped off. Does that matter? Does the lack of momentum matter?
No, I think it helps the individual players. I don't think it's going to take any intensity away from that game in particular. You kind of want to go into these kind of games with momentum and good feeling and good results. But I think what they were kind of licking their wounds a little bit, Palace, because they wanted Alex Scott to be sent off for a second yellow. He didn't get sent off for a second yellow for pulling somebody back for a potential quick break. But then Chris Richards done exactly the same thing for Palace, and he got his second yellow card. So yeah, it was a bit. They were a bit frustrated from that, and I think they were licking their wounds for a while.
I've just been looking at the 2007-8 season. Derby County 11 points minus 69. Southampton now 11 points minus 54. So it looks, Aaron Paul, like they won't be record breakers.
Yeah, absolutely. Goals at either end of this half saw this one end in a draw. The first half so poor, Steve, but it was the home side who struck early after the restart through Jared Bowen to break the deadlock, and you really thought and hoped it would breathe life into the tie, but it didn't. This was a real war of attrition. West Ham just couldn't kill it off. Kamaldeen Sulemana striking the upright was a warning to the Hammers, but then Leslie Ugochukwu delivered the blow and added on time. Walker Peters run across, deflected up into the air. Ugochukwu drilling the volley past Areola, and it's no win in 6 now for West Ham. Deafening boos from the home faithful that hadn't left to beat the Easter weekend queues at the Olympic Park. Credit, though, to Southampton, who showed fight and desire, something that has been lacking all season. Up to 11 points now, Steve.
Let's go back to Goodison. Gary Flintoff's with Ilkay Gundogan.
I am indeed. Ilkay, thank you for joining us on Sports Report. In the end, very much the right result from a Manchester City perspective, but you had to work really hard today.
Yes, we had to work really hard, but it was also no surprise for us at the end. We knew that, this ground is always tough to come, and tough to play, especially, with the way they approach the game as well, playing quite a lot of long balls from the back, with their physical conditions, being strong not just in the air, also for the second balls. We had to be really careful, and maybe in the beginning we didn't want to risk too much. Maybe you could also feel it a little bit in the way we have played, especially in the first half. But we really came out the second one to perform, and I think we have done that in a brilliant way, and definitely deserve to get the 3 points here.
I just wonder, I know he wasn't involved in the goal itself, but was the introduction of Jeremy Doku sort of a real spark right towards the end of the match to just give you a bit more energy as much as anything?
Yeah, I think that's crucial. Like especially in a high competitive league, like the Premier League is right now, having players coming from the bench that can leave an impact is crucial. I think Savinho has done really well, in the second half as well, and then having like a replacement like Jeremy for him in the second half. I don't think it can really get much better, in terms of making the right impact at the right time. And he has done that. He's really strong, in terms of keeping the ball in 1v1s, offensively. And, like gives us always a breather and can go into the box and can attract 2-3 opponents, which makes obviously space for the other players, like he has done for the second goal as well, where he gives me the ball and I'm able to set it for Kova. So this is the quality that we need at the end of the day, and everyone has been doing really well, I feel like, since the international break in March. And obviously we need to stay on top of our game, until the rest of the season, because we definitely need to qualify for the Champions League.
And can I just ask, you mentioned obviously Champions League qualification being key, but the standards that have been set. Does this feel like a season of transition overall?
It might feel like that right now, to be honest with you, without forgetting that we're still playing for something, obviously. I feel like we have done, unfortunately, too many mistakes, for a longer part, of the season, between probably, October and February. Where we dropped a lot of points, did a lot of individual mistakes, to lose games that were also in our hands, and again, there are various reasons for that, and I'm sure that the club knows, the management knows, and even some players might know. So it's about analyzing that maybe, to definitely avoid something like that happening next season. But again, I feel like already now, especially since we came back together after March international breaks, we are playing on a different level, on a different standard. You can feel it as a player on the pitch, also in the training sessions. I feel the manager feels it. I feel the supporters, you guys probably feel it, and when you are on top of that game, and you have certain qualities that our squad obviously is bringing onto the pitch, then you can't avoid winning Premier League games.
Thank you for joining us on Sports Report. Thank you.
Ilkay Gundogan live on Sports Report there with Gary Flintoff. It has finished at Brentford, I promise. John Southall.
It has. Brentford 4, Brighton 2. We had that concerning end to the game when Jan Paul Van Hecke and a clash of heads with Yunus Konak. The medics took a long time over Van Hecke. They gave him oxygen, they put him in a neck brace, then carried him off on a stretcher. So we hope he is okay. We'll go down to the tunnel in a few moments' time just to get the latest on that. As for the game itself, well, you know what, Steve, when Ivan Toney left Brentford, there were genuine concerns for Brentford. Where would the goals come from? The response from Brian Mbeumo and Yohan Wissa has been emphatic and quite brilliant. 34 goals between them this season, 18 from Mbeumo, 16 for Wissa, 3 more today. Mbeumo with the opener, lovely finish after timing his run onto a through ball. Welbeck then equalised in the 3rd minute of first half added time. Mbeumo and Wissa made it 2 and 3-3-1, both deflected off Lewis Dunk. Then the sending off, João Pedro with the elbow on Nathan Collins, got away with that against Bournemouth earlier in the season, not today. Brighton improved with 10 men, Matoma pulled it back to 3-2, Norgard with the late one to make it 4, 5 without a win for Brighton, their European challenges faltering. Brentford, this is their first league win here since the 7th of December. Brentford 4, Brighton 2.
Dion Dublin, I was just watching Thomas Frank there doing a big lap of honour around the G-Tech Community Stadium, which he pretty much deserves to do every week. I hate to ask this question because Brentford have just had a big win and I understand the fans won't like it. They are going to struggle to hang on to him, aren't they?
Yeah, it is, because there'll be a long list, I would imagine, of possibly 5 or 6 that are going to be looking and asking the question, are you free? Do you want to be free? So I think he enjoys his time where he is, and I think to a certain degree he'll want to stay, but sometimes, Steve, you get tempted away by bigger and better opportunities.
What about Aston Villa then, coming up against Newcastle? So they're going to start 7th on 54, Forest are 5th on 57. Does it feel to you like if they're going to reel someone in now, it is going to be Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, I mean, Newcastle are flying as well. I don't think they've lost in 6, and Villa have lost 1 in 7 or 8. In all comps. So both teams are in really good, in good form. But Villa do have to try and get these points. Well, they put them on 57, and they'll just be in and around Forest. So yeah, this is the time to do it. You can't hang about now, and the performances have to be at a very high level. This will be a high-scoring game, I think, Steve.
Well, you've deserved one after that at Palace, haven't you? Let's be honest.
Please,
so enjoy
please,
that.
Just give me some goals, anything.
Thank you, Dion. Have a
Cheers,
good one.
guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Top man, Dion Dublin there. You'll see him with Martin Keown and Gary Lineker. Match of the day tonight, 10:30, BBC One. Let's get some reaction to our first commentary of the day. Arsenal beaten 2-1 by Lyon in the first leg of their Women's Champions League semi-final. It was Melchi Dumournet with an 82nd minute winner for the visitors. Marina Caldente had equalised for Arsenal. Here's Arsenal's Caitlin Ford.
Disappointed to lose, but I think the second half, how we came out and the pressure we put on and the chances we created is promising, and to be honest, it's 2-1. I'll take that. I back us to be able to turn it around. The second goal was annoying, but yeah, as I said, I have full belief in the girls.
Different performance in the second half, a bit slow perhaps in the first half. What do you put that turnaround at half time down to?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that we play, we're just breaking them down, and the second half you could see the spaces open up and we're finding those as well. And yeah, I don't know, I think maybe they sat off a bit, I don't know, but yeah, we created and we got into the box. We just need to finish it off now.
How big a job have you got now next weekend going away to Lyon?
Yeah, I mean, any game from 0-0 is a big game, but to be one behind as well is, an even tougher job. But yeah, I do think if we're at our best individually and as a team, there's no doubt we can't do it.
That's Caitlin Ford with the BBC's Joe Curry. Chelsea take on Barcelona in the first leg of their semi-final at the Estadio Johan Cruyff, 5 o'clock tomorrow. Both second legs will be played next Sunday. In the WSL, Manchester United missed the chance to move level on points with Arsenal in second. They were held to a goalless draw at West Ham. Here's United boss Mark Skinner.
We wanted to obviously pick up 3 points. I think we've done enough in the game to do that. It's a good ground for West Ham because it's a spoiling ground. Like it is, it's great, and that's not any disrespect to them, but they didn't really come to win the game, they come to stop us winning, and they've got their point reward, which I totally understand. You just needed a bit of luck in the box today because we created enough to do that. So frustrating, but understandable, and yeah, we take a point because another clean sheet for us again, and we go into the last 3 games ready to take on the opponent.
The other game finished Brighton 1, Liverpool 2. Let's get back to the World Snooker Championship. Jamie?
And the defending champion Cara Wilson leads the Chinese debutant Li Pei Fan by 6 frames to 3 after the opening session of play in their match earlier today. Wilson lost the opening 2 frames this morning, but he played much better as the session progressed, and he'll be confident of wrapping up victory when play resumes at 7 o'clock tonight.
Let's get some more reaction to Manchester City's win at Goodison Park. Gary Flintoff's there for us.
I am indeed. Thank you, Steve. Jacob Bryan, thank you very much for joining us on Sports Report. I think the general consensus was that you were shading that game. So, I mean, how disappointing to come away with ultimately nothing from it.
Yeah, no, very disappointing. I thought we done well for the majority of the game, but I think it's moments that define the result of the game, and there was moments where we weren't as good as we usually are, and they picked us off and scored 2 goals.
James Tarkowski was sort of having one of those games. He was sort of involved everywhere at both ends of the pitch. I mean, how much of a blow was that to lose him in the second half?
Yeah, no, he's a big part in how we play, and he's a pillar of the team. So I think when he went off, we just didn't defend as well as we usually do in moments of the game, and it's moments that win games. But I mean, we can take positives from the game. I think the first half we defended well, and for the majority of the game, but it's consistently throughout the whole 90 minutes we need to be better.
I mean, does it say a lot for the change since David Moyes has arrived at the club that Manchester City have come here today, and you know their quality, that maybe not quite as good as they have been in recent seasons, but still a very, very good side, and you're actually disappointed coming off today?
Yeah, I mean, that's the attitude we need to have going into games. They're obviously a top team, but we need to put ourselves in that bracket of calibre of teams, and know that going into next season that we need to push on and be as good as these teams. We need to push on up the table and know that no matter what team we play, we can get points from them.
And just finally, obviously this was 3 games to go, so just 2 games to go here at Goodison Park. I just wonder, are the players feeling that, and what kind of sensations do you have in terms of the whole history of this magnificent football club?
Yeah, I think it's important we come away from these 2 games with good results. It's important that we bring these results into next season and have the fans something to be positive about going into next season. And there's still all to play for in the league, so I think we want to push up the table and give the fans something to be happy about.
Thanks so much for joining us on Sports Report today. Thank you, Jake.
Jake O'Brien live there with Gary Flintoff on Sports Report. Let's take you back to the Crucible. Jamie, you've told us about Kyron Wilson. What else have you got your eye on today then?
2 former world champions, Steve, in action this afternoon, and 2 former world champions that are struggling. Mark Williams was 3-0 up against the young Chinese star Wu Yize, but Yize has fought back in real style. He's knocked in breaks of 120, 90, 72 and 136, so he now leads Williams 4-3. On the other table, the 2010 champion Neil Robertson hasn't got going at all this afternoon. He's now 5-1 down to qualifier Chris Wakelin, and Wakelin looking favoured as well to take the next frame. 10 is the target for a place in the second round.
Aberdeen will play in the Scottish Cup final for the first time since 2017. After extra time, they beat 9-man Hearts at Hampden Park. It was 1-1, penalties looming. 118th minute, the winner was scored by O'Day Dabba. That books his side's place in the final next month. Here's the Aberdeen manager, Jimmy Tilleen.
I think Hearts started the game really, really well, and we were under pressure. And of course, the red cards help us to go into the game, but we also have experience from last week to try to be more calm and patient and try to find the cross situations. And I think we learned some points, have some patience, and finally we score a goal. It was so nice to do.
Was it frustrating for you on the sideline watching the team not be able to break Hearts down? They defended very well, they made it difficult, they sat deep. Were you getting frustrated, or did you believe that it would come good in the end if you kept pursuing?
You have to believe it to the end, of course. But of course they were defending really well. They give everything they have to defend the goal and still have some set plays, transitions. So we have to be really, really calm and try to find a solution and don't get stressed and too many mistakes. So I think the team did really, really well today.
That is Jimmy Tilleen. So that's Aberdeen through to the final of the Scottish Cup, and it will be Celtic or St Johnstone that they play. The second semi-final is tomorrow. Right, other scores for you in Scotland and what it means in the Scottish Championship League 1 and League 2. Firstly, in the Scottish Championship, Hamilton have been relegated this afternoon with an asterisk. So they drew 0-0 with Queen's Park. That means they're 7 points below Airdrieonians in 9th with only 2 games to go. But this is because Hamilton were deducted 15 points in the last couple of days and they are appealing. Airdrieonians lost 1-0 at home to Morton. So they're 6 points behind Queen's Park with 2 games to go. That means Airdrieonians could still survive and not face a relegation playoff. Finished Dunfermline 0, Partick Thistle 0. And this is a big one at the top. Falkirk 1, Wraith 3. Had Falkirk won that game, and they were going into stoppage time, believe it or not, 1-0 up, they would have been 6 points clear with 2 games to go with a vastly better goal difference than Livingston. Instead, the defeat means very much promotion party on ice. They're looking to go up for the second season in a row. They're now 3 points above Livingston with 2 games to go. Going down to Scottish League 1, we already know that Arbroath are up as champions. They lost 5-1 at Annan this afternoon. That's a big win for Annan. It means they're a point behind Inverness with 2 games to go. If they can finish above them, they would avoid being in the relegation playoff. Dumbarton are already relegated. They drew 2-2 this afternoon at Montrose. Other scores: Cove Rangers 1, Alloa 1, Kelty Hearts 1, Queen of the South 3, and Stenhouse Muir 1, Inverness 1. Really exciting in Scottish League 2 because Peterhead, who could have gone up as champions this afternoon, instead had their heaviest defeat of the season, 4-0 at Elgin City. East Fife in second were 2-0 winners over Stirling. So they're just a point behind Peterhead at the top of the league, 1 automatic promotion place, and wouldn't you just know it, 2 games to go, they play each other in their next match. Other scores: Forfar Athletic 0, Bonnyrigg Rose 2. So Bonnyrigg Rose still have an opportunity to avoid a relegation playoff. That victory over Forfar has them 4 points behind them with 2 games to go, which leaves us with Stranraer 2, Edinburgh City 0 and Spartans 2, Clyde 0. Big day of F1 this afternoon as well, because we've got qualifying for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix coming up at 6 o'clock on 5 Sports Extra with commentator Harry Benjamin.
I tell you what, Steve, I'm really looking forward to this one. 20 cars dancing their way around 27 turns under the lights at the Jeddah Corniche circuit, where the walls are all so close. It is so perilous, and I will be shocked if McLaren do not get a front row lockout. They have looked to the class of the field, but who's going to get pole position? That's the question question. There is absolutely nothing between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri at the moment. Piastri off the back of a great win in Bahrain last week. Lando Norris with a point to prove as well. And at the moment, the advantage have been quickest in the last practice session. Under the lights, though, it's going to be one to join us for.
Thank you very much, Harry. An unbeaten 97 by Jos Buttler led Gujarat Titans to a 7-wicket win against Delhi Capitals, so they're now top of the IPL. Meanwhile, West Indies missed out on qualifying for the Women's World Cup by the barest of margins. That's despite chasing down 168 inside 11 overs to beat Thailand. Bangladesh qualify instead with a run rate of 0.64. West Indies was 0.63. It's the first time in 25 years that West Indies women haven't qualified for the 50-over World Cup. In Rugby League, 2 games in Super League today. A result for you is Leigh 18, Warrington 14. Catalan versus Salford kicks off at 6 o'clock. Back into the Premier League, some more reaction now to 10-man Crystal Palace 0, Bournemouth 0. Here's the Bournemouth boss, Anthony Iraola, speaking to Chris Wise.
I imagine there's a bit of frustration having played 45 minutes and not being able to find the breakthrough today.
Yeah, I think it's a point that probably before the game, it's not a bad point coming here, difficult place, difficult stadium, but considering how the game has gone, we've had 45 minutes playing against 10 is disappointing, yes.
Do you feel your team didn't do enough going forward in the second half? Is that where the disappointment is?
Yes, at the end, it hasn't changed a lot, the game, from first half to second half. We were already controlling all the game first half and having all the possession, and the only thing is they didn't have the threat probably after in the counter, no? But their defensive system didn't change a lot, no? 5-3, 8 players there, and we were trying through the outside, through the inside, but we couldn't have even clear chances. I remember one from Eva, a couple of shots, but not clear enough, no? Considering we were playing with one more player.
It's very tight in that Premier League table in terms of the teams immediately around you. Does it feel like a missed opportunity today?
Yeah, probably it feels like a missed opportunity. No, I think it's 2 points that would be lovely for us in our situation. No, we are still in the fight now. Every small thing, every point is can be decisive, and we have to keep going. No, obviously we don't finish with the best of the feelings, no, because we could have 3 points and we would be in a very good position, but. We have to focus now. United at home, let's go. We have 5 games remaining. We are there in the fight, and we have to give everything.
Anthony Iraola there speaking to Chris Wise. Rugby scores for you. Earlier in the Six Nations, it finished in the Women's Six Nations. Italy 21, France 34. Live score for you. England 35. Scotland 0. In the Gallagher Premiership, 2 full times. Finished Exeter 24, Bath 26, Harlequins 29, Sale 43. Just about to get underway in Saracens versus Gloucester. One other football story for you. Congratulations to Bury. Memorable afternoon for them. They beat Burscough 4-0 in front of 8,719. They were kicked out of the Football League 6 years ago, reformed in 2023, and they've been crowned champions this afternoon of the North West Counties League Premier Division. A bit of a gap between that and the Champions League, which is what Aston Villa and Newcastle are thinking about. Full commentary from Villa Park with Pat Nevin and correspondent John Murray.
Yes, thank you very much, Steve, and yes, congratulations to Bury. Great to hear that news. Just goes to show, doesn't it, that some owners come and go, but football clubs stay.
Yeah, the fans are the football clubs. Some people forget that sometimes, but when you're sitting here today, we're surrounded by, you know who this football club belongs to.
They do, yeah. The fans have been working themselves up into a frenzy for this one as well. Big match in the Champions League here on Tuesday night. I hope you were with us for that. Today, a big match in the Premier League. Aston Villa 7th, Newcastle in 3rd. Villa 54 points, Newcastle 59 points. The sun's shining, there's a right breeze whipping around the ground, and for Villa, 1 more win, they'll be right in the thick of this race for a place in the Champions League next season. For Newcastle, 1 more win, and they'll be in with a real shout of finishing 2nd.
Do you know, you look at all the teams, you know, away from Liverpool, apart from that, and Arsenal to some degree, the battle below that is phenomenal, and this is the heart of it today. And I think really Newcastle, they're desperate to get this little bit of a lead.
There goes the whistle from Jared Gillett, the referee. It's Newcastle who kick off in their white shirts with the green trim and the white socks. The what is often referred to as the Saudi Arabian-like colours. And Aston Villa in the claret and blue shirts on their first attack of the game. Ollie Watkins back on the team, can't reach this. Sandro Tonali's able to tidy up, take the ball into the right back area and play it away. So you'll gather from that, Watkins in the team, Asensio as well. Here is Watkins, early shot, deflected in! Nick Pope completely wrong-footed. Just over 30 seconds on the clock and Aston Villa have scored. We thought there'd be goals in this, maybe not this early. It's Ollie Watkins, it's Villa 1, Newcastle 0.
It took an incredible deflection that Newcastle are claiming that he's come from an offside position. It will be tight, but they're walking up. The referee's going towards the penalty spot. But what a start they made. They were in trouble even before the goal in the very first seconds. Tonali, as you explained, he covered, he cleared it up, but he wasn't able to get the ball away. And if you don't get the ball away, Watkins will make the best of it. And Tonali was the one who played him onside there. That goal stand.
Yes, Tonali who came back onto the pitch in the right back area. So that meant Watkins was onside, and the shot, I think it was Fabian Schär that it came off, it was, who sort of got his feet together, but it completely wrong-footed Nick Pope, who was moving to his left, and the ball actually just dropped gently into the bottom left corner as Watkins looked at it. So Fabian Schär, who scored twice here last season for Newcastle, has deflected that ball into his own net. It will be Watkins' goal. Not even had a chance to run you through the teams in full yet, and already Ollie Watkins back in the team has got his 16th goal of the season, 15 in the Premier League, and what a start for Aston Villa after the ultimate disappointment of going out of the Champions League here on Tuesday night.
Now, if you're ever asking the question, you know, is there going to be any sort of hangover? Well, not at the moment, the start of this game. But you know what, didn't expect it now, expected this to be open, expected to be goals. And here's Livramento.
Crossing into the penalty area from the left-hand side, but that was blocked away by Aston Villa, who've been able to get it away. And Villa, Ollie Watkins scoring that goal at the same end where John McGinn and Ezri Konsa scored their goals the other night in front of the North Stand. So an early setback for bang in form Newcastle. Well, they're both in form, aren't they? But Newcastle coming into this having won their last 6 matches in all competitions. Here's Murphy on the right with his cross, but it comes off the shins of Maatsen and deflect behind for a corner. Before Newcastle take it, the Villa team then 4 changes from Tuesday. Martinez in goal, Cash, Konsa, Mings and Maatsen. So changes there, Mings and Maatsen coming in. Pau Torres is not in the 20 actually today. Then in midfield, Tielemans and Camara. Then Rodgers, Asensio, McGinn and Watkins. So Rashford is on the bench for this one. And Newcastle unchanged. 7th match in a row they've named the same team. Pope, Trippier, Schär, Byrne and Livramento. Guimaraes, Tonali and Joe Linton. Murphy, Isak and Barnes. Corner is taken short by Newcastle to Livramento by Murphy. Back to Murphy. Murphy's cross takes a flick off a Newcastle head. Barnes at the back post. His shot deflected up into the air. Villa half clear it away. And then back come Newcastle again. Isak with a shot from the angle. And that bounces away behind for... Well, I thought it might be a corner, but actually the offside flag's up in there. And it's a free kick to Newcastle with Villa already 1-0 up. Pat Nevin.
You know, the amount of people we talked to before the game in the press room beforehand, saying, look, this has got to be a cracker, it's got to be open, there's got to be goals. And 1 or 2 people were naysayers saying, yeah, but you never know the ones you look forward to. But you just can't see this being dull. Well, it started absolutely brilliantly. And Newcastle, oddly enough, do not look affected by it. They went right on the attack. And intriguing to see, the first thing they did is they tried to get the ball out to Murphy. That Murphy against Maatsen one there on the right-hand side for Newcastle will be very, very big today, I think.
So Martinez to take this free kick. Villa, that's just the start they would have wanted. And here is Ollie Watkins now getting the ball down to the edge of the area. He goes, left foot shot, hits the crossbar and bounces away. Hit with venom by Ollie Watkins' left foot, and it crashed against almost exactly the point where the bar and the post intersect, and it flew away at a crazy angle right out to the far side. and Newcastle are able to get it away. So close, Pat, to 2-0.
You know, we're listening to some of the games coming in this afternoon, and you wonder if teams are really going to go for it. You know, take a chance, try and go by players. Every attack that's happened in this game so far, it looked as if it would at the very least be a shot on target, but possibly a goal. It's been absolutely phenomenal. Can they keep this pace up? I suspect they can.
Yes, I have a feeling they can as well. They've got plenty of motivation. This season is far from over with that exit from the Champions League on Tuesday night. This time next week, Pat, I'll be commentating on them in an FA Cup semi-final, and they've not won that great trophy since 1957. And, you know, the motivation is all too clear after the events of Tuesday, the 12 matches that they've played in the Champions League this season. Everyone here in claret and blue, and indeed black and white, wants to be in that great competition next season.
And it's, I mean, it feels like cup finals as well, and certainly even both managers, well, Eddie Howe, of course, get well soon, Eddie, but they all feel that every one of these games feels like cup finals themselves. And I know it's a terrible old cliche, but there's a reason for the cliches like that. It feels like it, and that's the reaction you're getting for these fans around here, and the players as well. They've all started off at a great pace.
Yes, Unai Emery said in his match programme notes today, he said the energy that came from the stands on Tuesday was like a nuclear power plant.